So good morning and welcome to the Operations Committee meeting on 23rd September. We'll start with our health and safety. In any event, we exit out the back or the side, meet at St John's. Is there any apologies? Bruce? Dave? Dave? Here he is, he's just walking in.
Apology for lateness, then accepted.
Yeah.
Not quite.
Okay. So we will do anything there, we'll just leave it twice. You'll know that you're right. Any conflict of interest? Cool. So we have a recording device and we are being live streamed. And any announced urgent business? No. Before we start the minutes, I would welcome gentleman in the room, Steve Hutt, who's one of the council candidates for the South Ward. He's sitting in to see how it all goes. Okay, if we could go through the minutes on page 5 from the meeting on the 19th of August. Just first of all, just for accuracy, I'll go page 2. Page 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. On 14, I have a correction. Item 4.2, the third bullet point, the Courage Road should be Osborne. So I can move that those are true and correct. We'll have a second here.
Yes. So now if we can go back through those for any matters of
All those in favour?
Aye.
Excellent. So we'll go back through for any matters arising. Page 5. I did note that it was interesting that the Chief Operations Officer title of that meeting took a whole line. But that was well done as well. Thanks for that, Dave. Page 6. 7.
Just on page 8, under roading, in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th bullet point down, I just wanted to raise as far as matters arising. So it talks about the data analysis and that every reported pothole the team repeated 20 unreported. It was asked how many of those were repeated more than once. The manager to look at data and report back. So I guess that's what I was looking for more than anything. How the manager, was Charlie in this instance, is to look at that data and report back. So I just wanted to know how timely we are going to receive that reported back and to understand the issues that are being identified. And I think this is also in relation to customer service, CSRs or factory goals, so that how and where the repeat offenders are as far as potholes goes and we're turning the curve as far as that goes. So that is kind of context of my question.
Mr. Chair, I would suggest that Charlie gets posed that question when he comes in.
Okay, all right. I'll do that.
He's got some. There's some movement in that space. I mean, I don't know if we've necessarily looked at the data specifically to say which ones are blowing out because it's quite tricky. Because generally potholes are caused because of some deformation that's led them to becoming a pothole. But if the pothole is in a facility where another pothole is formed and or an edge of it blows out, then it's quite difficult to start running the data against that. but he's got some, he is currently looking at how do we make improvements to the way that potholes are repaired.
So I suppose that that is the context, just that sentence may in effect be giving a perception that we're going to receive something that in effect we're not, because potholes are such a moving feast, so to speak, you know. So I'm just wondering about the purpose of even that sentence, given the response we received there. I don't know whether other people agree, but I just feel as if that's giving a perception that we're going to receive some information, but we may not. We may not receive that information in the context. So.
Vince,
I think this highlights a wee bit of the pothole I showed Dan, which wasn't actually a pothole. It's more of a, you know, it's a whole big slump on the, and it's, he said it was in the resealing program, but it was reported 2 years ago. And it's blooming dangerous. Like I said, it's Russian roulette. You know, it's a round hole this big, this deep, and it's on the edge of the tar seal. It only needs 2 large vehicles to happen to pass at the same spot, and one will have there'll be a very big accident, because, you know, a big truck would lose its front whole axle, and if a car went in it, you know, it'd just flip it. You know, and you know, you just wonder when you look at the photos, you can see it's been there a long time, and you know what happens with the reporting system of that, because that's more than a pothole.
well, that's in hand now, isn't it?
Yes, Mr. Chair, yeah, so it's going to be fixed next month. But what I can say is that when it first was brought to our attention, it was monitored consistently for 8 months. And it was seen that it wasn't getting any worse. So it's gone off to WSP for a repair methodology. That's been back with us now for probably for a while, probably sat with us for a little bit too long. But nonetheless, it's now programmed for the next few weeks.
Dan, could I ask you back on page 7 around the water losses there's a bit of chatter in the South Ward around the water leak on the Cobo Bridge. Could you just update where that one's at?
We're currently waiting on NZTA to give us approval to get onto that bridge to repair it.
Yeah, so it's in hand, we know all about it. It's just an NZTA and then we can get on. So that's been well. Thank you. Anything else on page 8 or 9, Ross?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. On page 8, the on the road in the third bullet point down, just regarding Gorbay Road, did we able to follow up, Dan, on whether it did have its follow-up sealing after it was after the rehab?
Oh, Mr. Chair, yeah, Charlie again can probably answer that one.
Okay.
Page 9. Fiona?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, thank you. Just, I guess a follow-on from the Cobo Bridge. How long have Transit been holding us up on that? Because that pipe has been leaking for an exceptionally long time.
Oh, Mr. Chair, Alex will know when he first put the submission in. But Alex isn't here today because he's doing something else. But it's been in for a while.
Yeah. No, I can understand that. I just think that perhaps Transit could be a damn sight more timely.
As I understand, it's a cast iron pipe. It's cracked. You can't just go and weld it. They've put a patch around it to restrict as much as they can. They've then got a plan to replace the whole thing with a alpha as we call it, plastic pipe, permanent. That involves consenting with the Wakago Tahi about working on the side of the bridge and what's hanging on their bridge. So there's a bit of a process, but it is all in hand and known about happening. So I think that's where that one is.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm pleased to hear about that, but we do get pinged a lot for water wastage
Thank you,
by other agencies, so yeah, thank you.
Page 10, 11. We're going to bid them.
I'll wait for 12.
12.
12 and 13. On the Waikari footpaths, a whole lot of learned gentlemen tackled me the other day. Great job. apparently underneath the water mains, the water piping is pretty old and pretty, I don't know. So certainly when you're doing that big concreting and the footpath stuff, you would replace the water pipe underneath it if it was leaking. I hate to see that the concrete's been dug up again. It's pretty old water pipe down there, I don't know. I'm just being told.
Mr. Chair, I'll have to check them, I'll check the maps to see when the water main was replaced down there, but I've got a feeling it wasn't that long ago because it's got a high rate of failures on those old hot fixes, and I think that we've replaced that. And also part of me thinks that it's not actually in the footpath, it might be in the road.
Page 13. And 14. So I don't need to move that. So now we go on to the operations monthly report. And leave that one off, but we are going to bring the three waters down to from second to last because our last discussion item is going to be by Kirsty as well, so we'll link them together. So, over to you, Dan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So last time we met, you received a full year appraisal of everything that had gone on, and just to give you a little bit more information on that. So what we've done as the operations management team is we've had road shows around the district. So we really wanted, we felt, and I'm not, you know, taking the sentiment of this committee, that it's been a reasonably successful year. We certainly felt that as the operations management team. So we went around the district. We had a meeting here down at the Domain, one in Cheviot and one in Amberley, where we got all of our team members together, and we ran a complete overview of the year that's gone. And the aim of that was really to celebrate them and the work that they do. So we put on a morning tea and you know, called out some specifics about what people have been up to, trying to generate a bit of enthusiasm and a bit of excitement for people. And again, it went down really, really well. So we're really pleased with ourselves, and now we're talking about probably doing that every year, because it is absolutely prudent that we do celebrate the successes. And what it also does, it helps people from one team who are solely focused and dedicated to that work to understand that they are actually part of a much bigger machine, and that there is work going on over on a different part of the workload. So it was a good eye opener for people, and it really stimulated a lot of conversation, a lot of positivity. So really pleased with that. So nonetheless, this is our first report for the new financial year, and we're covering July and August. And already you'll see as you read down through the report, we started off we've got a strong offing. The team are right into the work. So that's great, because we're always trying to make sure that we're ahead of the game. The libraries have already started to see an increased borrowing, especially around those digital formats, and with already a high number of positive community engagements. One of the things that is certainly top of my mind at the moment, and it's quite topical, is a number of dog attacks that we are seeing. So we're just doing more work around that to understand a little bit more about what's happening there. We're talking about changing our engagement processes around the front end of that, how we deal with these when they first arise. So that's something, you know, like I say, that's something that's top of mind. So I'm working on that at the moment. And the road and the capital program has started strongly, like I mentioned. So the road into, we've already got the rehabs established for this year, but not only for this year, we're already planning for next year as well. So we're getting ahead of the game there, and you'll have seen a high number of capital projects are already underway, and some have actually already been completed. So that's where we're currently at in terms of the overview.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, today I think we've largely got some of the team leaders back giving their technical reports, but I thought it was a great initiative. In our last meeting, had some of the navigators and co-drivers do the report, you know, meet them and hear their views. So I thought that was a good thing as well.
Yeah, you'll see them come through again.
Excellent. So now we go to the customer services and libraries, was Naomi got Naomi?
So what have we got going on? We've had, if you look at the planner, lots coming up, we'll talk about some more of those later on. The CSRs, it looks like dropped off, these are
I'm sorry to stop you there, but unfortunately, my question's on the very first line. In the planner,
yeah,
I don't think we've got election voting going into October and November, have we?
something's gone wrong with the whole planner actually, because the school holidays go into November and something's happened with that. So I'm not sure what happened from the time it left me to the time it got printed. So
That's okay, I just
no, no.
I thought that the likes of, you know,
You've only got 3 weeks. Yeah, it's a never-ending process. I suppose technically we do have the by-election coming up.
Oh, too true, well said.
But that's not quite reflected there.
Sorry, no, I was
So the CSRs that are on here that show quite a big drop, and these are the CSRs that come directly to the customer services team. So it's an unusual, like, you don't think of the customer services team actually going out and dealing with service requests. Most of it is phone calls and emails, and they respond and they deal with that, and it's not recorded as a service request. These are ones that are specifically assigned to the team, and one of the processes that we used to have was they placed advertising on behalf of the other. Comms would actually create it, it would be sent to the customer services team. They would do that because they created a purchase order within the Magic system. Because we've moved to Datascape, that's not how it works anymore. There has to be a requisition created from the person requesting the advertising because it sits with that budget. So because that's being created in those teams, therefore it doesn't come to the customer services team to place, it goes from that team to comms and back again. So that's a dramatic decrease. And that may stay the process. The processes are still being ironed out as we get used to our new system. So they're not being lazy. Reopen CSRs. Just a note on that, we have between 400 and 600 CSRs every month. And so when you see that somebody has called in to say, no, I'm not happy that that's closed off, can you reopen it? We're talking less than 1%. And I also think we need to just reflect, and you'll see some examples there. So there's some examples given of those, well, examples, those are the ones that we have actually reopened. Some of those are, they're not as someone is just dissatisfied as such, they're just letting us know that something didn't work as expected. If we look at things like the manual clearing of the stormwater, the guys went down there to clear it. They did the best they could. They knew that it wasn't done to where they were doing to close that and program someone to come in and do the next part. In the meantime, the customer notices that it's not completely done and they ring in and let us know. So it's those kinds of things that actually happen, as well as the actual issues that they really aren't happy with. But on a happier note, customer compliments. And I'm just going to follow up here from what Dan was saying about the roadshow. So the roadshow was amazing, and we had all of our teams come along, and there was this wonderful thing where teams were seeing what each other was doing, and we would talk about what happened. And of course, I talked about the compliments, and my fellow managers claimed who had the most for the year, and it sort of became a little bit competitive then over what? You can't possibly have more than me. And then so we said, well, these need to be reported. So one of the things that has happened immediately after is that the teams themselves who get compliments. So when we receive a complaint, it usually comes on high. It comes directly into, I'm making an official complaint, and it comes in direct formal channels. When it's compliments, they often go directly to the team member, and they'll receive an email saying, you know, thank you so much, this was amazing, and it's complimentary. But they just go, oh, that's nice. And they don't do anything further with it. Now they're being encouraged to actually let us know about those as well, so that we can actually report them. So you might see a few more of those coming through as well. So
I think a chocolate fish award at the end of the year do wonders.
Agreed. So yeah, some lovely compliments through there. And of course, these are all from direct result of those ones. Some of them are from the August parts, but and just a few complaints, again, not many at all, and all dealt with. our borrowing stats, Dan alluded at the start there that we actually had a real increase in our electronic borrowing, particularly in our newspapers and magazines. We actually have stopped some of our subscriptions because our lesser used subscriptions, we've just refocused into our more used ones. So we've cropped some and added to others. So a lot of people think in an electronic library that you have a subscription that opens you to everything. It doesn't. And actually you have to buy your electronic titles in the same way you buy an actual book, even though it's for borrowing. So we can have 1 copy of a book or 3 copies of a book or this range of books, but it all comes at a cost. So it's not just a one-off and it gets you everything. It is literally like an electronic library in that way. So we have just moved our budget for borrowings around a bit to get the best for our customers. Press reader has gone really well in the last couple of months. People love getting into the Herald and the Otago Daily Times and the Euronews. So that's some of our non-native Hawaii-ians who come from Europe who want to be able to catch up with from home. Looking at our contact methods, a lot of data for this year to see some trending happening, but it's just very similar to what we've been experiencing. Snaps and Solve still quite high.
Now, I mean, the contact methods, I note that phone calls are still double emails, and that says to me people still like to talk to people, and I'm glad that we've got a setup that's doing a pretty good job at that.
Yeah, it is we get compliments about that a lot, not necessarily recorded ones, but so many times I hear it all the time when someone answers the phone and it's like, oh, it's a human. It's an oldie, but I just hear it constantly. There wouldn't be a week goes past that I don't hear that. A real surprise. You'll see that we sometimes like the average of 14 seconds. I don't think 14 seconds to answer the phone, but that's the phone will go from one to the other. Or someone's on the phone, someone's with something else, but we'll get to that phone call. So just yeah,
It's good.
yeah. Snapshots of locations. Interestingly, Hamner Springs wasn't in the top 5 this time. That was probably my notable takeout from that. Damaged roads, rubbish again, the general sort of thing. Topical information, it was all about Datascape and the implementation of those systems for our teams. Quite a change. So it's been quite a change for the teams, and for our sole charge library service centres in particular, it was harder because they're on their own. At least at the main office or the central library, we could bounce it off someone else and you've got a friend sitting there. So we did put a lot more resources around to try and actually help with that. Slowly now be going right. The challenges were that affected rates, it affected dog registrations, and with all those, it's affected the rates rebates being able to process later. So that's a lot of that kind of thing happening at the counter that the teams are dealing with. Lots of wonderful school holiday events for libraries, and one of the things that the team did really well this time was combine their device advice sessions. So the device advice sessions is a 20-minute session. And what they realised was a lot of people were coming along, and it's actually grandparents bringing the kids to the holiday activities as more so than a parent. That's another thing we're seeing. And so we were able to go, well, if this is on, while little Johnny's doing a jump bot, would you like to have a chat and book a session for something that you do? And they were taken up, we were booked out. It was great. So that was a really good initiative by the team. And you'll see some of Mark's comments that he actually put on about, you have one person come in going, I've changed from an iPhone to an Android, the next person I've changed from an Android to an iPhone. Sort of like, guys could just swap. Yeah. The community impact survey, there was some good takeouts from there. I'm sure you've already read through them and agree completely that it's just some great stuff happening. My key thing when I actually read through these parts was the PLNZ chair's comment that libraries are evolving community anchors. We always call them hubs, the community hub, but her wording is an evolving community anchor. And I thought, that's really nailed it. Really nailed it for me. Yeah. Ancestry. Ancestry drop-in sessions, so Mark's been the main one that's actually been delivering those. It's quite a passion for him. He quite loves the history side of things. And as part of that, he was offering these sessions and again, teaching people how to use it. There was some very enthusiastic person in Cheviot who wanted lots more, quite a few in Amberley. And as of that, we actually went up from 148 views into Ancestry in July to 1,365 in August. So it was a huge uptake just on that by offering that and people coming in to go with it. I don't expect that to stay that high unless we keep offering more and more courses, but it was great to see. Papers Past was one of the ones that was really actively used as part of that too. Just on our last page there, the Balkeen Cemetery Tour. Why is the Balkeen Cemetery Tour on the Library and Customer Services report? So this was, again, it's come out of that ancestry stuff. So with all that ancestry research that was happening and the Papers Past, looking at that, there was a lot of research happening into locally, and there was findings that a lot of this happens down the Balkeen Cemetery, a lot of Amberley's history, a lot of Urunui's history in this end. And so Mark got together with Anne Lemon of the Kauai Archives and created this tour. And there was, 26 people went along to this. There was quite a few people who were booked in, but didn't turn up on the day. And if you can look through some of the things that actually, some of the cemeteries, headstones that they find and these people that are in it and some of the bits that go with it, you can see why they got so interested when they go through. I mean, there's our classic stuff of like where our name, you look at this like Norcock, Chamberlain, Ashworth, and it's like, oh, those are some of our names around the area. And now I see some of the history in the background as to what those do. We know about Ready Money Robinson, well known through Cheviot and well known up there, but we didn't know about Rebecca Boyce. And Rebecca Boyce, and it was an interesting one, at a meal when you'd be talking about suffragettes and things, and she was one of the original signers of the petition, and she was right here as well. So yeah, some really interesting history there. I'm not sure we needed to know that Agnes Lawcock was murdered, but so be it. Yeah. And the very last thing is the beautiful display in the window up at the Cheviot Library. So Cheviot does a lovely spring festival every year. They get daffodils before anyone else in the town goes yellow, and they celebrate that. And the library team also celebrate that. They make these displays in their own time. They come down at the weekend, bring their kids with them and everyone else, and they all make these things and put up these displays. So, and they won this year, so really happy. And that's my picture.
Thank you very much, Margaret. Just before you go, page 21, top 5 types of snaps and souls or whatever, demonstrate. I'm asking this now because I've got pretty much in the room. Do we record whether they are our road or Waka Kotahi's road? Like, are those stats council roads or NZTA roads?
When they come in, that's part of why that unknown will come into, because it will actually be recorded as being going to NZTA. So no, a damaged road is recorded as snaps and solve. So that's regardless of whether it's ours or theirs. Yeah.
I'm sure there's anything to be gained by knowing what's ours and what's theirs. Or
yeah.
The number of transactions that we're on, the number of snaps and souls that we receive, the number of transactions, so they'll either go off to the roading team or we'll push them through to NZTA. So the team is dealing with them. We don't fix them for NZTA, we just pass them on.
I was only sort of thinking, so what percentage of people that people are calling in, what's ours and what's theirs? We might be a
I
little
don't
bit
know
of
the percentage on that one. I'd have to go and see if we can analyse that down further. And I guess it will depend on what's happening on the main road. So when there was the big pothole down near the Kauai Bridge a few years back, we were getting lots of notifications about that one. So that would have put it that way, but I guess it would depend on the month, depend on what's happening out on those roads. But the team that is, and made a really good point. I think I've mentioned that before. If something comes in, a phone call or snaps and solve or anything comes into our front of house team, and it's for NZTA, the team don't send it back and go, not ours, go deal with it with someone else. They will pass that on to NZTA. If they're speaking to somebody on the phone or they're replying by email, they will say, oh, right, actually that road is NZTA, we'll pass that on for you. So that it's kind of that teach a man to fish, like hopefully next time you will go directly to them and understand where the state highway parts come in, but since you're here and you've reported it, we're not going to give you the runaround. We know who to pass that on to, we know how to deal with this, and we'll do that for you.
Thank you very much, Naomi.
Very
Appreciate
welcome.
that.
Done.
So now, Murray,
No, sorry, Naomi, can I just acknowledge Mark's work on that Belkeen cemetery tour? I just think that's a really, it's a really cool thing for us to be doing, and I'm sure that Mark spent a lot of time prepping for that and getting all this kind of information, but, I wonder across the rest of the district how much interest there would be, because we will see the same stories and, the same level of interest, I'm sure, across all of our countries. And I just want to acknowledge Mark for doing that. I just think that's a really important way, I guess, to actually understand our way to here, so, yeah. Yeah, cool, thank you.
thanks, Naomi. So now, with regards to Charlie, we're voting on page 33.
Mr. Chair, just while Charlie's settles in, Alex has just let me know that the application to NZTA women for the pipe leak on the bridge over 4 weeks ago. The pipe will be welded up, apparently it's going back on today, so it should be up and running again by tomorrow.
Fantastic, brilliant, thanks for that.
Thank you, Charlie. You'll notice that we've got a special observer in today, so I'm sure you'll be aware of the.
Mr. Chair, I'll be able to misbehave you.
You always are.
Started kicking off roading with our financial planner. It's looks a little bit light on the financial planner, part and parcel because I wasn't here to actually write this report. So my team did a pretty good job of banging this report together on the information that they did have. Out of the total expenditure to date, we're sitting at a little over 1.5 mil, with about another mil left to claim. That's work that's been completed that hasn't been claimed yet from our contractor yet. A number of reasons for that. Part and parcel is having sufficient QA for them to be able to claim it, so having good enough evidence to be able to claim it off us, or the work as a package isn't fully complete yet. So we're at total expenditure, we're sitting at just shy of about 2.7 mil for the year already, which is great. We're well on track with our maintenance metling program, and we're into the seal pavement repairs for the resealing season now. If there's any questions about the finances in particular?
Charlie, just talking on that ceiling thing, we talked around getting an early start in the season as opposed to trying to catch up at the end. So that's in effect what you're doing here.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, that's exactly what we're doing. We are one of the districts that starts milling first, earlier than other districts. So typically we start early September, whereas a lot of other TAs won't start until October. So we're already ahead by construction season schedule.
And our bridges is that
River Road,
no,
Conway.
man, that's yet to come out of here.
It's being repaired as we speak.
Yeah.
So no, it hasn't been paid for yet.
Thank you.
Cool. So the July claim was pretty light, and the August claim was also pretty light in terms of the expenditure from Cord at 560k in July and 356 in August. So to date, I think there's just over a mil sitting in there. Most of that is maintenance metling waiting to be claimed, because we've almost finished the maintenance metling program. So that, yeah, sits our total expenditure just around the 3 mil mark for the financial year to date, which is about a quarter way through the year. CSRs, we had quite a few CSRs come through in August. Had 79 received, and close to 58. So a lot of them were received towards the end of the month, and partner that up with Datascape being a bit challenging to operate in at the moment. We're still trying to figure out how to best manage service requests for the voting team. So we've got their closed 58, which will be resolved now. Not unusually, the most reported fault type there was unsealed road.
Sorry, Charlie, I wasn't observing enough.
No, that's cool. It's just around the CSRs, Charlie, and it was reflecting back on the minutes of the last meeting, and I raised it before you came in, but because it talked in the minutes of the last meeting that it was around CSRs and reporting potholes and having to go back in and redo pothole kind of thing. So, but the minutes of the last meeting talked about the manager will look at the data and report back. My concern was actually what we were expecting you to report on. And I'm not sure whether you've got any thoughts around that, but I guess the other thing that I just wanted to talk about in regard to that, and I'm thinking about Princess Street and Waikaria, and I know that Princess Street west of the school is, you know, it's really rutted and potholed, and the guys have gone through and repaired some of those potholes, I guess, is a measure until we dig it out and do it properly. But just on the opposite the schoolhouse, you know, there's those farming bits there. I mean, there's a pothole that's been missed in that, you know, litigation stuff, I guess, you know, so I just wondered how we manage that stuff, you know, because it's been raised with me a couple of times by a few of the locals driving by that, you know, we've plugged some of those potholes west of the school, but 10 metres away we've missed one in that process, I guess, and ahead of that major dig out. So and that's what alerted me to think about how we report on potholes and what we expect you to report back to us. I guess it's more of a statement maybe more than a question. So
Through the chair. So the multiple pothole data that we were looking at. So yeah, we are looking at. There's a little bit of complexity when it comes to interpreting whether or not a pothole is the same pothole that's been repaired or whether it is an adjacent pothole caused by the edges failing of the previous pothole. So it's quite challenging to work out the multiple triggers, if you will. So Kate's looking into that at the moment. So once she's refined it, and I'll sit with her and we'll refine that data set to make sure it's valid and usable, then I'll bring you that data, whatever that looks like. But it's not as cut and dry as just this is a pothole at about this location, because you know your root points are exact plus minus 5-10 meters, depending on where you are in the district. So it's not quite as straightforward as I would have liked, but we're working through that data set at the moment. So we can work through the amount of total potholes versus the customer service generated potholes versus potholes that the origin was find and fixed. But then overlaying location data onto that to make sure it's the exact same pothole is quite challenging without reviewing every single pothole repair.
Yeah. I guess my question is around the ones on Princess Street west of the school have been plugged, but within about 10 metres opposite the schoolhouse, you know the location, there is equally a rutted potholey area, but it actually hasn't been plugged like the ones 10 metres across the road. You know, so I think it's about getting the right information and doing the work once. Yeah.
So through the chair as well, so Princess Street does feature on my report a little bit later on, just not written in there, so it's just something to speak to, just around what we're going to do on Princess Street and the reason Princess Street is failed, because I think that's a really interesting point to discuss as well.
Look, I'm happy to leave it there then. Thank you.
Thanks. Just so I've got a photo of one here on Littleton Road, and putting road codes doesn't fix it, does it? And especially when they're this round and this deep. And you know, I just 2 years is you know, there's a bit of a breakdown, I reckon, in the system.
Yep, through the chair, there absolutely is. So when jobs get lodged, they get put into a program, and when they're in a program, they're visible. If they get moved to another program, which a lot of these jobs have been in the past, especially a lot of the long-standing jobs that have been set up for monitoring, you know, like Rampaddock Road. There was a Tomo up in Cathedral Road. There's been a few other jobs that have come up that have been either monitoring for a period of time until we decide on what the most appropriate course of action is, that they've sat somewhere. So Ethelton Road is one of those examples. It's been sat in a program that we don't actively monitor, like managers council. That's a program that our contractors manage. So after we had set the site up for review, because we need to understand whether or not our Tomo is moving anymore before we keep digging it, but before we dig into it at all. And then after we got repair methodology back from WSP, yeah, it's sat probably for a bit too long. Probably low risk where it is. I'd suggest that it's not high risk, not as high risk as some
I'd
of
say this was very high risk because it's out onto the tar seal. It's this round, I can show you, and it's about that deep.
Yep.
So a big truck or something met there, one of them would flip.
in the balancing act of all of the other priorities in the roading network. I think there has been other priorities that are more high risk than something on the edge of seal versus massive deviations or potholes or road failures for like Glenmark Drive in the middle of the lane, caused by the logging that was massive, or Pyramid Valley where we've had other failures happen. So on a risk matrix, it was set up with a shoulder closure to identify or delineate the hazard and program for repair. So we're looking at that next month, but again, it shakes out in the order of priorities.
Just as explaining that to the coroner.
I think that one's duly noted.
Julie, go through the LMPs. So we've had a little bit of a rejig over the last few weeks with the LMPs. We were running a trial for the last few months where the LMPs have been travelling together to, in theory, lift the level of service across every road. So they're travelling together to focus on, one would do potholes, one would do signs. They'd go through a road. It would be like a locust effect, and they would leave a really, really nice road at the end of it. Didn't quite hit the mark as well as we'd wanted, and I think some of the network probably suffered a little bit in that while that program was being run. So like Inland Road, for example, I think has probably gone backwards a little bit because of the time that it's taken. So we had a recalibration meeting a couple of weeks ago on how we're gonna run that going forward. So there's some unders and overs in terms of what the maintenance contract owes us in terms of hours. So what we're probably going to do is we're going to take the higher risk roads like Inland, like Leader, and we're going to throw another resource at it at no cost to council. So we will have 3 LMPs essentially, bringing Inland Road back up, bringing Leader Road back up. So we've understood what the quantum of work is up there. We had Cord sent one of their guys up over Inland Road to get a full picture of every single fault, and there's quite a lot of work to catch up on. So
Jeremy, just break that down. What are we calling these? Is this smaller trucks going around dealing with them? What are these crews you're talking about?
so the LMP, the light maintenance patrol. So this is like our 2 trucks that we have on the network full time.
Yeah.
But we're going to have a 3rd one chucked on for no extra cost to council. Just to get Inland Road and Leader back up, because there's quite a few potholes on Inland Road now. Weather hasn't helped, so I figured that was the most pragmatic solution was to get more resource on the network rather than trying to claw back some cost savings.
Thank you. Dave?
Yes, your chair, so these LMP vehicles and people, where are they based? Not going from Amberley up to Inland Road. I'll just see if we had them based out locally, we'd save an hour and 3 hours in the day and get 3 hours more work if you had some local people out there doing it. So, you've got 3 trucks. Have a north-based truck, a central-based truck, and a southern truck. Just centralisation just loses hours. And if you've got a part-time worker, well, high percentage of your working day is travelling to Waiau. As Ross would tell you, it's a long way up there. So these trucks, they're not all based in Amberley, are they?
Chair, no, they're not. They're not all based in Amberley. I mean, some of the patrol operators are based within the district. Some of them are, but at the end of the day, we're at the mercy of our maintenance contractor because it's the service that they provide, and it's their direct staffing. It's not really anything to do with us where their staff are employed from, unfortunately.
Mr. Chair, I just want to point it out though that within our contract we do specify that the time starts that we start paying for is when that vehicle hits this district. So it's not when they leave town, or it's not when they leave Rangiora, it's specifically when they get through to the district. No, I take your point. it's
I
a,
can't remember, it's a long,
yeah, it's a big district and I take that, but as Charlie says, we're kind of at their mercy. But that is something that is being contemplated at the moment. It's about what the, how do we, you know, Charlie's doing a great job in terms of lifting up lots of stones and seeing lots of issues under those stones. And he's not putting them back down again. He's actually taking them on board and saying, well, okay, how do we deal with this in the future? So that's some thinking that him and the team have already got underway. So we'll be bringing that back to you in the fullness of time.
Chair, it's good to have another truck out monitoring and doing some of that. Like, I guess it's like, at no additional cost to council, so thank you.
Go through some big drainage wins. Obviously, we got the extra money towards the end of the last financial year for some resilience works. We're about halfway through that pot of money doing drainage works on Staggers Bay, Leslie Hills, Rampaddock, Crampton's Bush. So we've done quite a lot of work for the money. Leslie Hills had some pretty good drainage improvements done. Rampaddock had some pretty good some drainage improvements and culvert replacements. Crampton's Bush, as you guys know, as you go over the bridge and up the hill, there was a lengthy old culvert there that would have been very costly to replace, but we managed to exhume half of it, clear it, and put it back in. So still plenty of life in the concrete stuff, and get rid of the trees that were causing some shading on the road while we were there. So some really good outcomes to some of this drainage work as well, where we're looking a little bit wider than just the immediate problem. So we had a couple of very happy farmers at the end of that. So they were very, very unhappy about the ice on that corner. So, and you see there the photo there of the Leslie Hills box culvert repair. So okay, this is another pragmatic solution. This was replacing a box culvert by pouring in situ. So rather than digging up the culvert and replacing it, we just poured a new bit onto it. So stuff that we've not really considered doing before.
That's good stuff.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
I know, it's all good. I know what it's like sitting there. I'm really pleased to see, we talked for a long time about getting some working on drainage, and a lot of the funding that we get is all based on the surface of the road, and I think Dan started quite some time ago trying to look at the deeper stuff like drainage, which can affect it. And so to see that coming in, and I guess it will take us some time, but we will, over time, we will see the benefits, hopefully with barring storm events, less maintenance, because we're getting in ahead of it with the unseen things.
Through the chair, so the work that we're putting in at the moment to drainage is an investment, and it will pay off in years to come. You talk to any roading person across any organisation, and they'll tell you the three most important things about roading is drainage. And we're investing heavily into drainage at the moment. We probably could be doing more. I mean, we could always be doing more, like retaining the wheelie diggers on for years to follow, or doing things slightly differently in the future. But I think the gains that we're making now are already showing. I mean, you know, all of the flood prone spots aren't as bad, and we're not having as many surface flooding issues across the district as a whole.
So the comment there is we've been working really hard to become proactive rather than just the reactive work, and straddling that changeover can be tricky. We've had so many big storm events, but I'm really pleased that that's the direction we're going in, and looking for efficiencies and cost savings as we go. So great work.
Thanks, Fiona. Vince.
Just the drainage, I've had good reports. It was quite funny. I had a complaint from a person on Port Robertson Road, and I said, I'll come and see you on Thursday. And I went there on Thursday, and he says, guess what? They're doing my drainage, and that's what I said. And I said, there we go. He was, they were wrecked with it, so that was great.
Through the chair, I organised that just to get there just before you went there, Vince.
It was quite funny, really. He said the problem's been solved. So that was good. Into Manuka Bay, people in the locals down there said it's great to have them open that road up again. Good.
Cool. So looking into our seal pavement maintenance, as you know, it's started construction season. Looking back at the last couple of months, we had some pavement repairs to fix up on Inland Road, as well as some asphalt repairs on Rotherham Road North, as you know, a little bit of touching up here and there. But all of those isolated failures that we knew about back then, we're either working on being done or have completed already. looking forwards now, we're obviously in construction season, so pre-reseals are the most important thing as far as delivering our reseal program. But we're also looking to pick up a lot of the other maintenance activity that we could do as well. So we essentially have a choice when it comes to this time of the year. We either try and get ahead of next year's pre-reseal repairs, or we try and catch up on all of the other maintenance work that doesn't get done. So the likes of Glenmark Drive, Princess Street, all of those other sites that are still costly, but can't be done in winter because they require sealing coats or something similar. So we're trying to pick up as much of that as we can, as well as the second half of Leela Road, just to again try and lift the overall appearance of the network. So Princess Street will be a big one this year. There's 2 sections on Princess Street that need some love. I alluded before about the failure mode, and I think that's really interesting because we've gone out and dug test pits on Princess Street, and we wouldn't usually dig test pits unless we were going to go and do a rehab. The reason that Princess Street has failed is because it's previous pavement repairs that they have put too much concrete into, or too much cement into. So under the top layer, you've created essentially a massive cement block that is rigid and allows for no flexibility. So this is really good for us to recognise and look forwards and say, well, this is a repair that we as council have done before. We haven't done it right, and now we've ended up with something that doesn't look right and doesn't perform right and has underperformed, and we're back fixing it again. So what we're going to do is we're going to do that site different to what we would normally do. So normally we would just put the mill through and cement stabilise or lime stabilise, and we're going to dig out that whole site and chip seal it again.
So good luck. I remember when I first on council with Princess Street, there was a lot of time and energy spent on it, and it's the type of soil underneath. It's just really, so I'm just saying good luck and have a good, because I know there was a hell of a lot of work done on it, because it used to be the real, like the mayor would remember, there was a lot of time and effort. We did such a big wide street too.
So I think historically it was water. So there used to be a lot of water under the road. We did test pits down to 2.5, 3 meters and couldn't find water. So it's time of the year. It is a complex site with the geography of Waikere. It's like in the middle of the bathtub. But we're pretty confident that we can get it right this year. So we're going to. And then, so I've been dealing with all the high shoulder again. This is pre-reseal repairs, but as you know, shed water off the road and protect the road surface. So we're just winding up into stabies and dig-outs now. So you'll see those numbers creep up. I think we're going to aim for about 20,000 squares of stabilising. I'll end up around 8,000 squares of dig-outs, maybe a little bit more this year. Moving into
Ross, sorry,
sorry, Charlie.
you've got to have eyes like a chameleon to be in this seat.
At the last meeting, I just had a query regarding Gore Bay Road and the rehab that was done on that probably 4 or 5 years ago now, which was a good rehab. But do you know whether it had a second coat on it?
through 2 years, it did 2 years after.
Okay, no, that's good because I wasn't sure whether it did or not. But I have to say it's standing up really good. It's
Same thing that we're going to do on Monday.
okay, yeah. Thank you.
Moving into unsealed. So the unsealed network has been pretty good, actually, considering. Most of the unsealed network has had some love. I know up the east side, we've done quite a lot of maintenance metalling. Happy Valley, I think they're on Happy Valley at the moment, but we've received a number of compliments around the work that's being done in regards to the maintenance metalling and looking after the unsealed network. Roads that haven't been maintained for a little while, or something similar. They've seen some metal this year, and we're working through the rest of probably around the last 10% of the program.
I see the photo of Sinclair Road, the shape of the gravelling. What size AP did you put on that road? Because it's very, very loose. There's already been a young girl run off the road. There was sheep on the road, and she put on her brakes and she went through and into the fence. And I've noticed, I've been driving it a bit, and it's very big, and it seems to be all in any uphills or downs, it's getting very rutted. And I know I towed a trailer around there with my ute the other day, and it was skidding. I had to go into four-wheel drive to climb back out, you know, so the road's going to deteriorate pretty quick when you get stock trucks and that driving it. I just see it's quite large and it's blowing off.
Through the chair, so we're probably 32. I don't know off the top of my head, but probably 32. If you say it's quite big and it's what I think what we've been saying for the last 18 months is short-term pain, long-term gain when it comes to 32 treatment on roads. So I think was it Dalzell's was the same. And
through the chair, 6 months of driving down the side of a road, and now it's really good. So silage weekend's going down to put a bit of fines into it. It is good now.
So it's that balancing act of what's the most appropriate treatment to rebuild the pavement and get some stability and provide a consistent road user experience. It is really challenging on the hill sections. You'll remember Blythe, Rampaddock, there's a few other roads that were hilly, Gardies as well. Any of the hilled sections tend to corrugate a little bit more quickly. As soon as we get some moisture and some compaction back into it, they generally turn out really well. So it's that balancing act for us, combined with the, always drive to the conditions tagline.
It's just going into the summer, it's going to go a whole summer without, getting moisture right into the road, and so that I think we'll lose a lot of it, which will just get blown out.
And that's why we're going to stop maintenance metalling in October. I mean, typically we've maintenance metalled right up to November, and we've lost a lot of the fines and some of the material doing it that late in the season. So we've got a hard line that we're not going to metal anymore after October, after the end of this month.
So the gravel will come straight out of the Wire riverbed, out of the river wire.
But potentially, I'd have to have a look.
Yeah, because it just to me, it just doesn't seem to have any fines at all in it. When you stop and look at it, you can't find everything's about that size.
Dave, did you have a question?
Yes, through a statement, through the chair, about AP30, it has really worked. And another solution that came from wanting to stop taking mud out onto the road from our silage pit was using the even bigger stuff and making a railway using railway ballast and making it called a soak pit, so you drive across there, and that's been an absolute good solution for doing it. So it's just something for you to. It's a subdivision solution, isn't it, to stop mud coming out of, but it's actually worked really well in the rural. Taking because a lot of country roads end up with a lot of mud on them, don't they? Especially coming out from silage pits or anywhere. Wasn't a cheap solution. Logging trucks as well. Well, logging trucks.
So looking forward, I mean, we're about 15,000 cube. That's 15,000 cube that's all paid for. We've still got another 10 to 15,000 cube to go. And that will see us around the same as what we did last year in terms of volume on the road, which will be really good. Looking forward to the rehab season. So we've got 2 sites up for a rehab this year, Medbury Road and Mutnow Beach Road. So Medbury is going for a granular overlay, so building on top of the existing road, similar to what Rotherham Road had this last season just gone. That will get it off the low spots and stop the flooding issues.
What is it, Medbury?
Pig farm end. So from the bridge out. And then Mutnow will have an area wide.
Sorry, Charlie.
An area wide stage, same as the Gorbay trip. So there's a couple of big projects. We aim to deliver one this side of Christmas and one just after Christmas. And we've already got the designs and test pits underway and partially complete for next year. So we should be able to hook Rob into it next year as well for the sites that we've got lined up.
Ross, you had a question?
Yeah, thanks through the chair. Charlie, just I see really the test pits and, you know, there's been quite a few down up the Lyford end of the Land Road. And any rehab's not going to be done there this year, but hopefully the following
Next
year. Those test pits might need some more attention because most of them have actually sunk. And yeah, they've done a good job of putting a bandage around them and sealing them, but they've all sunk. And, so if, like I say, if it's going to be delayed for another year, they will need some topping up.
They're definitely on the radar for next year.
Okay. Yeah.
Sort of, Charlie, the traffic management plans to try, is there a common thing there, or what's that quite on?
I would have to do some research, Mr. Chair.
That's when the contract, you know, an outside contract is putting in the management plan, or is it our contractor does that, or?
Potentially be both. It could be our contractor who we've requested more information from, or it could be an outside contractor.
So it's part of their job to do that, we don't do that for them, right, okay.
What you might find, Mr. Chair, is, I mean, we insist on, obviously, traffic management plans from all builders that build building access ways.
Oh, yeah.
And they're generally the ones that, in my opinion, they're the ones that submit the substandard stuff, so that's where Raven and all the team work with them to help elevate their compliance.
Would we almost stand thinking, I've seen the builders in that circumstance down the road by Ravensdown. I've seen everything from a vehicle parked either side because they're working, putting a driveway out, and you think that's fine, to have one where the half the road was coned off for days while they were doing it. And I'd have thought it's the same situation, we'd almost have a standard, there you go, you've got to do that. Is that something we could think about?
Mr. Chair, the onus is on the person submitting the traffic management plan to have the standard plan. So as the agency that we review them, we just accept them or not. So, you know, we don't go back to private companies and say this is overkill or underkill. We say you've either successfully mitigated the risk or you haven't.
It leaves a wide ranges of ways of doing it, doesn't it?
Well, given that if we were to come up with a standard, then we are in some way, shape or form liable. And if they apply that in an area where it's not appropriate, then it's going to come back to us. And as Charlie says, we're actually the regulator here, not the the producer of the traffic management plan.
I understand.
Cool, so there's some stats there around TMPs. Not unusual from any other month. But to get most excited, let's talk about forward works, because that's the most exciting thing I have to say today. Not listed here again, because unfortunately I didn't put this report together this time, but the delineation strategy between the four councils that I've been ever so gloriously selling the story of for the last few months. That is as far as the officer completion, so that's complete from our point of view. So we've reviewed the document as a whole. We will then kick that to the WiMAX comms team to beautify it, and then it will come back to council managers for sign off.
Do you just want to explain what a delineation strategy is?
Yeah.
Sorry. So this is basically how the roads look and feel in terms of line marking, in terms of signage requirements, in terms of how we treat intersections, so this is the penultimate solution for how we manage our roads, essentially. And when we've sat down with three other TAs, four in total, we've managed to agree between the four of us what all of our roads will look and feel like. So when we'll have a centre line, when we'll have edge marker posts, when we'll have curve advisory signs, when we'll have, name it, it's included in there. It's quite a sizable document, and a lot of work between the four of us has gone on to get that over the line internally, because it's hard enough to agree on stuff inside, and then let alone four other councils that have to then also agree to the same things. So it's been a really good piece of work as far as that collaboration with other TAs, and then the outcomes that we'll produce out of that. So this will drive where our line marking is done over the next 10, 15 years, where we're going to install curve signs over the next 10, 15 years, So this is a really good outcome for us, and it lifts the whole district's level of service. Doing things that we should be doing anyway. So that's awesome. So as soon as that document's been beautified and come back, it'll come through officer sign off, and then it will be presented in either this forum or somewhere. So that's really exciting. I'm really excited about that. Hand in hand with being excited about things, the transport procurement strategy is a document that we're required to have endorsed by NZTA once every 6 years. It's due for review, so it's been rewritten and just doing some tweaks now, and it'll go for an endorsement. And that may or may not come across the desk of this committee as well, just as an FYI.
What does that cover?
That covers the way that we spend NZTA's money. It sort of links hand in hand with Council's procurement strategy and the NZTA procurement guidelines manual that they have. So it's like a hand-holding document. Yeah. The setting of speed limits outside schools. So I've just gone through the National Speed Limit Register and saved and draft all of those speed limits that have been accepted by the Director of Land Transport. So all the signs have been ordered, and we're going to be erecting those signs come December. So we're just working on the program, how we're going to do that, how we're going to best do that and most cost effectively do that. So the whole project value is about 25 grand all up so far. About 17 of that is on signs, and then it'll be installation costs. So if we can use the patrols to install some versus having a third party come in and install them to make that enforceable from the 26th of January. So it's again another big change that will come up. Comms are working through some training and education material at the moment, and yeah, so they'll go up, blanked out for a bit, and then we'll slowly unveil them or something similar. But that's also very exciting. And the last thing coming out for this committee will probably be the Lawcox Balkan-Amberley Road intersection. So we've had a couple of road safety audits done on that intersection based on the feedback that we received from NZTA in the technical audit. So we were required to do something with it. So we went and had WSP do a road safety assessment. They produced some options around what we could do to best improve the levels of safety on the intersection. I didn't like their report very much, so I've gone for another one. And ultimately that will come to this committee or council for a decision on how we treat that intersection, whether it's by roundabout, which was initially proposed in the original budgets. I think we had 400 grand set aside for a roundabout there. We obviously lost that when we lost all of the additional funding. And there's other solutions from line marking and minor improvements to moderate improvements to the full-blown roundabout. So there'll be a report coming to make a decision on which treatment option, if any, we want.
I think, Charlie, if anyone's not aware of that situation, basically the right angle is the right way, not on a straight through road.
I mean, the most straightforward thing to do is make that a right angle, but I fear the community would not be in agreement with that.
Thank you, Charlie. Mary?
No, just a question, Charlie. You said through that technical audit, we have to do something. When do we have to do something by?
Well, I've got a date of July 2027 to have something done, but we've already done something. So we've had the road safety audit, so we've got an audit score. The road safety assessment. So we've got an assessment score based on the current. So we know more about that intersection officially than we ever have before. So we've done the first stage of that is how do we do something? Then it's what are we going to do and optioneering from there. So as far as the requirement to do something, we've set aside that by going out and having an assessment done.
So Charlie, just which intersection is it?
Lawcox Balkan-Amberley Road.
Right up the top.
Yeah. Where it turns into Reserve Road.
So why is a roundabout cost 400,000? What do you do?
That's probably not our territory.
No, just
There are substantial pavement repairs required there under the islands. So it's not just about plonking a roundabout onto what's there. It's about removing and excavating all of the islands, rebuilding the pavement to handle the stress of turning vehicles on it. and then installing the island, the actual island itself. And it's by no means a cheap exercise. I think we had an engineer's estimate at 400 grand.
Okay, thanks, Charlie. We'll wait and see what comes back from that one. Look, I'm just aware of the time, and Catherine, I apologise. We're going to stop now for a quick cup of tea. Come back 10 minutes, 15 that we have to be outside. Thank you very much, Charlie. It's nothing better than to see an exciting roading engineer.
Thank you.
Right, we'll stop there. Thank you, welcome back. Okay, welcome Catherine. If we could turn to page 37 and if you could take us through the regulatory report and then the waste and recycling, I understand.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you.
Morning. So CSR, starting with them, we've received 249 over the period and those to 57. In terms of compliance, 10 received for littering, 24 for noise complaints, 13 for unauthorised or dangerous building works, and 4 CSRs relating to signage. So notably the unauthorised or dangerous building works remains quite steady with ongoing investigations in place for those. For animal control CSRs, we received 70 in July and 60 in August. Of those received, we've got 55 lost found roaming dogs, 14 dog barking complaints, 3 dog welfare complaints, 6 dog attack bites, and 11 litter stock complaints. Food premise verifications, there's 14 done over July and August. Most were satisfactory. There were 2 that had an unacceptable outcome, which increased the order frequency. We also received 3 food safety complaints. One was referred to the Ministry for Primary Industries as a registration authority. One was for an unregistered food business, but it was unsubstantiated. There's no evidence of trade found. And one relating to pest control management. The business has a management plan in place that includes appropriate food storage, cleaning, sanitising, and increased vigilance of staff. For alcohol licensing, we received 28 applications and issued 39. Mostly 19 licensed premises were monitored by the alcohol licensing inspectors. Most were compliant with the requirements. One premises was found to be non-compliant, minor non-compliance for non-notification of a certified manager. The inspector gave education and advice about requirements. Moving to dogs, there's been no impounds for the period, no infringement notices issued, but there has been 6 dog bite incidents over the period.
Yeah, sorry, Catherine, I've just got a question from
Yeah,
Ross.
sorry, through the chair, sorry to disrupt the flow, Catherine, but just regarding alcohol licenses, I see in July 9 were received and 17 issued. Is that because it was a carryover from the month before?
Through the chair, that's correct, so there's timeframes in terms of the 20-day reporting requirements, so they can roll.
Thank you.
So moving back to dogs, so registered dogs, the amounts are unavailable for this period, mainly because the dog registration renewal notices were delayed due to our data scope implementation. And dog owners had until 1st of October to pay the registration fees, so we should have this application. Going to the 6 dog attack incidents, and 4 of the 6 incidents, formal warning letters were issued to the dog owners and education provided.
Sorry, I'm not doing well in interrupting you. A question from Murray.
Oh, no, I don't, I'm happy for Catherine to finish off. with the
Finish
dog
off
thing,
and
I've
then
got
have a question.
I've got a question, or, yeah, around the dog.
And 2 of the incidents, the offending dog was unable to be identified. So
Ready for a question?
You good to go? Yeah, I just want to raise, I guess, the fact that we have over the last month at least, but even probably the stats have been trending, you know, more attacks, more awareness on, I mean, look at the reports today, you know, not just, I mean, that the dog attacking the child in the Waipara River, person stalking, and then the chooks at the bottom there, you know, and I'm just, I'm also concerned that I'm receiving personally more emails in this regard. And, you know, I understand that we are governed by the Act as to how we can, or when, or with whom we can apply the Act. But it's just a rising concern for me, and I just want to be certain and confident that we have systems in place that ensures that we don't allow this trend to continue, really, you know. The responsible dog owner title is something that should be, we should be looking to uphold. And so I just want to, I'm not sure what I'm seeking at this point, but I guess what I'm seeking is comfort that we are doing everything within our powers, and perhaps consider how we can manage the trend that we are seeing, because I certainly don't want us to be on the front page of the paper for the wrong reasons in regard to, you know, offensive behaviour by dogs in that sort of setting. So I'm keen to get an understanding from staff that we have a good handle on that situation.
And do you want to comment on that?
Oh, yes, Mr. Chair. So what I will say is this is a highly emotive subject for both the owners of the dog and the victims. So, and a few cases, as the Mayor points out, have come to light just recently, which has given us an opportunity to pause for thought about how we might manage these, or how we have been. So there is a couple of things in train at the moment. So just this morning, I've now asked the customer services team to direct any escalations or complaints about dogs to me. We've got another member of the team who's very well versed and experienced in dog control, who's been working at the city for a number of years. He brings with him a wealth of experience, and we've been using him as a secondary arbiter of our processes to give us some guidance about how we might improve there. So of what we've looked at so far, we've certainly got some improvements we can make the front end engagement of these attacks, which is work that's currently underway. And we're also working with the comms team to try and put something out there to talk to people about dog attacks. They are happening, but how people might behave around dogs, because in some instances it might actually be the behaviour of the human around it might be triggering or creating some ill feeling of the dog. I don't know, I'm no expert on these matters. So there's a whole bunch of small pieces of work that we are undertaking, and what I'll do is I'll commit to, once we've re-baselined our processes, I'll bring them back to this committee so that you can understand exactly how and why and when we apply the essentially the law and or our bylaw, because we've always taken the position, certainly since I've been here, that we try and work with people to get the best outcome rather than going straight into heavy-handed with enforcement. That said, it might have created a behaviour that we are behaving in too light a manner. So we've got to strike the balance right. So what I intend to do is I'll bring it back, and then it gives this committee the opportunity to make sure that we're on the right setting.
Thank you, Dan. I just further down that 14 dog barking complaints. Have we got the equipment, or are we geared up to? I know that's one that's very difficult because you have to capture, record the dog barking at the time. But are we? Do we have that one covered?
Well, I suppose we do and we don't. I mean, as you just pointed out, it's really, really difficult to know if you put it in an urban environment. If you hear dog barking, which dog is it that barks? Or you hear other noises, and then what you've got to have, you've then got to have somebody to sit and listen through all of that recording to then try and ascertain whether it is that dog or not. So it is a really tricky thing to try and to prove or disprove, and you are relying on more than one person's view of events.
If you have a circumstance where there's known dogs barking and several complaints, are we geared to measure it somewhere, quantify it, check it, or is it just once again a case of being there while it's happening?
Generally being there while it's happening, but we do have, I mean, we've got powers under the bylaw, under the law, that allow us to deal with it once we've proven that it is if we uphold the complaint.
All good? Thank you, Catherine.
Moving to Freedom Camping, so there are 84 visits done in July and 78 in August. 3 infringements were issued in August for camping in a prohibited area down Jollies Pass Road. That's under Schedule 1 of the bylaw. Resource consent monitoring was low for the period, mainly due to staffing workloads with staff in terms of the new system. Health inspections, so there was 1 camping ground inspection done. The rest will be done over the year period on a planned schedule. Illegal dumping, so there were some costs involved with clean up of illegal dumping, especially down the rivers. Particular emphasis is the White River as an ongoing spot for illegal dumping. 1 offender has been identified, and the compliance officer will issue infringement notice once the system is operational.
I noted a picture of that on social media, one of them at White River. They'd gone to the bother of stealing a supermarket trolley to fill up with the rubbish to take it there to dump it. So I thought, yeah, you know, they're just people that wasting oxygen, to be honest. But yeah, so I do think that if we, it's not quite name and shame, but if we do identify them, I think we really do need to be seen to be acting on it. We need some kind of a deterrent message out there.
In August, there was some damage and vandalism to a sign at Scarlett Domain with an approximate cost of $100 to replace. In terms of topical information, so there was 2 amendments to the Resource Management Act ahead of the replacement of the legislation expected later this year. The first one relates to the infringement offences, so notably the infringement fee for excessive noise restrictions or failing to comply with excessive restriction has increased from 500 to 1,000 for an individual and 2,000 for a company. The Consenting and Other System Changes Amendment Act also came into force on the 20th of August 2025, and the Act has administration system changes for our perspective from the compliance team. The duration of excessive restrictions has increased from a 72-hour period to an 8-day period, and it covers successive weekends. So again, it's a deterrent to make sure that those ongoing excessive noise does not occur. As I noted in the last ops report, the hairdressing regulations have been revoked by government on 31st of July. Again, so hairdressers and barbers are now regulated under the Health and Safety at Work legislation, the Building Code, industry training and codes of practice. The Ministry of Health have also produced a public health guidance for industry, which focuses on disease prevention. There's minor impact to the team. So moving across to the waste and recycling report, this has been prepared by the team leader of waste minimisation. So there is a planner in place. In terms of progress with the planner, there's been a further review of litter-bin locations, which has commenced and it's due to be completed in November. Installing impervious drainage channels at Amberley Transfer Station consent condition has commenced and was completed in September. And there's further plans for ordering new litter bins as well to optimise capacity. One CSR was received for the period and closed off. Waste to landfill and recycling. So that is 560 tonnes for the period. Notably, none was rejected over this period. Recycling is 199 tonnes over July and August. Contamination rates remain very low. Customers to transfer stations. So Amberley received 3,756 paid transactions and Kemba Springs 847. Some insights and successes. So green waste, 180 tonne of transfer station green waste was launched in July and it's expected to be available for sale in late October to early November. A application for funding has been made to the Waste Minimisation Fund for $91,000. This is to cover funding for recycling boxes, publicity and project management. Keep you updated on any developments there. In terms of challenges, although we do have low contamination rates for recycling as a whole, there has been contamination to Kemba Springs recycling. With the teams also noted some recycling due to business specific sites as well. They're being identified, spoken to, and they're being monitored as well on site to make sure it remains.
Yeah, and further to what I said before, I think with a situation like that, I think there has to be at least a stick held. You know, it's one thing to speak to them and tell them off, but I think sooner or later I might have to make an example because it's been going for a while. Okay.
It ends up being a cost that all the district actually incurs. So, I think that I'm probably not into the main chain thing, but I think that people need to have an understanding of the impact that the rest of the ratepayers pick up. And it goes back to your dumping the rubbish, under the bridges at Waipuru, the cost to the general ratepayer is quite significant, so I think that there is some strong messages that we need to give because it's costly and expensive.
And the silly thing is they're probably using as much as petrol to drive and dump it under the Waipuru Bridge as it would be to put it in the proper place at the transfer station.
Thank you.
That's noted. I'll take that back. So in terms of, there's an update from a meeting held with ECAN in relation to the council's closed landfill work. So 2 council-owned sites were identified by ECAN as possible unconsented ex-landfills. Both were investigated and ECAN updated to confirm that no time they have been a landfill. Also, the end of year report for council's Cleanfill site has been submitted. Over the period, some inspections have been done to Cleanfill, transfer station, closed landfill sites, all deemed to be satisfactory with the requirements. Amberley transfer station, part of the grass, has been dug out to create an additional storage area for bins and trucks, and it's been given an all-weather condition material as well. In terms of education and awareness, a 12-month program has been put in place by the waste education team. And over the period, some school education visits were completed. In terms of cost saving, litter bins from Hemna have been backloaded by the waste control to save HTC delivering, with potential cost savings of $350. So officer time. Backloading, so 104.9 tonnes of recycling has been backloaded to Christchurch, saving council 17 return empty truck movements in July and August.
Doing a lot of good things there. Oops, not a bit. Scratch your head in the wrong time, you ask a question. Okay, thank you very much, Catherine, for bringing the two reports. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, Mr. Chair, if I may, I'll just, Catherine's been standing in for Andrew for the last, well, couple of months now, and he'll be back soon. Catherine's getting the other days. But I do just want to acknowledge the work that Catherine's done on our behalf. Not only has she been doing a studious EHO role, but also taken on Andrew's responsibilities as well. So she's been doing a wonderful job for us all, I think, in upkeeping everything while he's been away.
Absolutely, thank you. So now if we go to page 45 and ask Kerry to take us through building report.
Morning, everyone. Building on page 45, on the planner there, it just shows that we're getting ready for our IANZ accreditation next year, so it just shows the progress tracking along. We have someone working on that permanently now, so we're feeling a lot more confident than we have been in the past, so it's really good. Over on page 46, the building consent applications have dipped in August from July, which is a similar trend that happened last year for some reason. So it's not too unexpected, but and the building consents issued is slightly less in August than the same time last year as well. The average processing time is 9 days in July and 12 days in August for processing building consents at the moment. And as you can see down there on page 46, we're currently, in August at least, 21% were processed within 0 to 5 days. And at the other end of the scale, 28% were processed 16 to 20 days, with 100% issued under 20 days in total. So not going too bad there. Over the page on 47, all the consents are on time, officially according to law, under 20 days, which is good. We did have a bit of trouble getting information out of our new computer system for the number of dwellings issued, but hopefully that will return to normal next month. So that's why there's no data on that dwellings issued, but I can assure you we have got dwellings issued. It's just finding out how many without going through the whole list and counting them individually, but that should correct next month. Co-compliance certificates. We've issued 20 in July and 24 in August, so that's just ticking over nicely with 100% on time, under 20 days, with a 14-day average on co-compliance certificates. Over on 46, approximately 69 to 73 of all building consents have requests for information, which tends to hold up consents a little bit, but there's still a lot of consents there that don't have the required information to show the minimum code requirements. So that's a little bit painful. On the inspection side, 71% of inspections were passed in July and 67% were passed in August, with 13% failed in August and 17% failed in July. So there's still a good portion of work that's still in the failed area. The value of building work dipped in August to around about $6 million in August of building work spend in the district. Notice to fixes, we issued 4 notice to fixes, 2 for sheds closer than their own height to the boundary, and 2 for 2 tiny homes, which is still featuring obviously. The sheds close to their own height to the boundary should be resolved by the government changes they're proposing, where a shed, if it's 2.5 metres high, it's got to be 2.5 metres away from the boundary. But obviously most people like their sheds on the boundary, so that's a spare spot, and they often get caught out by neighbourly complaints.
So how do you control stormwater?
Stormwater should be contained on the own property, but of course, a lot of people just build the shed and put the gutter on, discharging into the neighbour, which tends to annoy the neighbour, and that's why we get a lot of these complaints. But yeah, stormwater should be contained and within their own property, so the gutter shouldn't hang over the boundary. So you should be 100 mils at least inside. The district plan says you've got to be 1 metre from the boundary, so technically you've still got to be 1 metre back. But yeah, often they're a lot closer than that metre or even their own height. Yeah, but the government is suggesting that for sheds under 10 square metres, they can be right on the boundary, and for sheds up to 30 square metres, they can be 1 metre from the boundary. So that makes a lot of sense to me, and we'll get a lot of these little neighbourly tips.
What does the new act going to say about stormwater?
Stormwater, well, I'm hoping it'll say that it complies with the building code, which means that it shall be contained on the own property. So even though the work doesn't need a building consent, it would still need to comply with the building code. So if we get someone discharging stormwater over the boundary, then we can issue a notice to fix saying, bring it back onto your side somehow with the tank.
So just there's a house in Chivia that's getting really flooded.
Yeah.
By the neighbours' shed and everything. It's killed all their garden and everything. Yeah.
Through the chair, we can look through into that, and we can handle that through a notice to fix process. Yep. Yeah. Stormwater should be contained apart from normal runoff that would occur if there wasn't a building there. Everything else can be dealt with through the Building Act. Yeah.
Could you just tell me a typical garage or something? Is the height at the apex or the?
Yeah, this is a bit where that gets a bit silly. It is at the highest point of that building. So if the highest point is furthest away from the boundary, that's the part you got to measure to the boundary. So even though it's leaning away from the boundary, you've got to measure that highest point and then measure that out. It's not the part closest to the boundary, which is stupid.
Yeah.
Anyway, some of these rules are a bit funny, but I think the proposal will sort them out, I think.
So if they want to go closer than that, that's where they've got to come and get a consent.
Yeah, it doesn't mean they can't, it just means they need a building consent, but but that'll cost, a shed consents are about $1,000, so it tends to put people off. When the garden shed's only 1,000. Yeah.
How did that work over the road? I'm just looking at it, it's not
through the chair. That's a consented building consent work, so they got a consent, firewalls. Yeah, great job. Yeah.
That's the Great Wall of Mangalee.
Yeah, but as you probably know, there's a lot of these garden sheds around. You can just walk around the block and you'd see 20 of them. But it's just when we get complaints, we have to deal with them, and yeah, it's not really, it's hard going. Yeah, on the smaller shed, it's not really worth the hassle. When it's just a dispute between neighbours, not necessarily worried about the building work. Yeah. So of course tiny homes are still featuring, but yeah, it's just going to be an ongoing thing, I think. Over the page on page 49, there's probably quite a good trend with the certificate of acceptance being all dipping downwards, which means we're getting less and less are on hold. So, but I tend to not think that will increase like that, because with more and more exemptions that the government's bringing in, we're going to get more and more people doing stuff that they shouldn't have, and these are probably going to increase, I'm guessing. So we'll just see. Dwellings under the 24-hour scheme, we only issued one in each of the months in July and August. It is quite new. We officially launched it last month, so it's after a trial the months before. But it is working quite well. It's a good scheme. We've got it running pretty well. So we're the only council in New Zealand that I know we offer this. So if we can encourage more people to apply for these 24-hour consents, then we can certainly handle them, and it's good for the customers, I think. So
Have you noticed any more impact, the spoke of outside companies or businesses going into the consenting game? Have we maybe noticed any impact from that at this stage?
we've had no impact on that at this stage. That they have started in, there's a private BCA out there that can work anywhere in New Zealand, and they are mainly working in the Selwyn district at the moment. And they have made inquiries to us to how they would work with us, because they have to apply for a PIN for every dwelling that they're going to consent. So we have got an arrangement with them how we'd handle the information, but no, they haven't applied for any PINs for that yet. I imagine they'll be in Selwyn until they get their feet on the ground and then start spreading. But obviously we need to keep on top of the game and offer the services that are similar. As far as I can see, we're probably going to be hopefully offering better services. But yeah, the tricky part is offering it over the whole of Canterbury region, the same service. It's a bit hard for her and I to do that, unless we councils get together a bit, yeah, which is possible.
Through the chair, that independent was really looking to work with some of the corporates, or, building over Kite homes or the, so that they're all relatively stock standard and easy to consent on, because of their, they're all sort of proportionate, aren't they? Is that correct?
Yeah, through the chair, they're looking at the cream work, easy, low risk housing companies. So kind of stock standard stuff. They're only going to take clients from housing companies. Well, that's what they've said initially. So yeah, so a lot of our building out here is not with the big housing companies often, but if one of their clients is a housing company, so if they did work out here, they would get that work sort of thing, I would have thought. But they are focusing on, well, I've said they're only going to focus on simple housing from companies. Yeah.
So do you see with the talk of more spreading of liability along the different stages of building a house, instead of it just necessarily falling at the end with us, the council? You see more expanding into that game where there's, picking, is that low fruit, picking the easy bits with less liability. And
yeah, in an ideal world, it's only the work we'd want.
Yeah.
Because that easy work that normally goes wrong, and it doesn't go wrong, and if it does go wrong, the companies fix it without any question. Yeah, we're going to be left with, well, we're going to have to handle all the work, including the ones that have no idea how to put a frame together. So yeah, the ideal world would only do that work and everyone would be up to speed with that. Yeah. But yeah, I can see why they've done it. Why wouldn't you only choose the best work? Yeah.
Just is that crispy work, is that legislated now, or is it still working its way through?
Through the
Where
chair.
the last man standing is council, and it's at there.
Yeah,
Is
through the
that
chair. No, that hasn't come in play yet. It's in development. It's quite early stages, I think. I don't think we're going to see that until like next year. My gut feeling on that
Yeah,
one.
right.
Yeah, because I think there's quite a bit of work to do to get that liability settings right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And on page 49, there's just a couple of photos there with Nigel and the Cheviot inspector in the Cheviot area doing inspection, and we're doing a few updates to real estate agents. This one's in the Hanmer region, and this is done because the real estate agents are some of our biggest clients, because they're selling people's houses and they find a lot of legal building work they don't need to know whether it's needed a consent or not. So they're quite interested in updates on what doesn't need a consent, and the stats on housing, that sort of thing. So yeah, they got quite a bit out of that, they said, so continue to do that. So that's the building report complete. Any other questions? Otherwise I'll move on to property. On page 50, property. Yep. There's the activities there in the planner. So I'll take that as being read unless there's any questions. And on page 51, it's all their current major work. And if we move on to 52. Sorry.
I was a little bit surprised on page 51 to see Cormac even mentioned as.
Yeah. Yes. These road stoppings and closings are very slow, and often it's not council being slow, we're waiting for stuff to come back, surveyors, lawyers, there's a whole lot of parties that get involved, and yeah, it just ticks over. Some of these are more than five years old. The Grassington and Nicolai roads, that was lodged in 2018. You know, and so yeah, it's just come back to us from the client in the recent weeks. So yeah, it's slow, embarrassingly slow, really. But it's not necessarily council being slow. It's just a slow process. We can take it off next month. How's that? It's done.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So on the limb front, on page 52, there was a good amount of limbs that were issued in August, which is a good sign for housing sales through the district. And the average days is still 4 days for limbs, which is really fast. It's under the 10 that's allowable. Social housing, still quite high demand on social housing, but still high occupancies. There was a fire in one of our tenants' houses, which you can see the photo on page 53, where a fire occurred on the stove, and the tenant was quick enough to switch off the power to the unit, which the fire service said saved the unit. So pretty impressive, but still some damage there with smoke and flames and the like. So we're assessing what that damage is now, whether we're claim insurance on that or not. Being a $5,000 excess, we'll just got to add all that up. But there's definitely going to be cleaning and painting, perhaps a new stove and some changes to the light fittings and cabinets and that sort of thing. So yeah, it could be worse. And other bits and bobs is really the works update. A few new stove, one of the houses, and on page 54. Some regular tests on our electrical work, camping grounds get regular checks. And on page 54, the last photo there, we've got a wee extent there at one of our public toilets where someone tripped up on this little lip there. And technically these lips are meant to be no more than 20 millimetres. But this one had a coating on the top, which increased it to just above 20. So now we'll put a little bit of a timber plinth there, so it doesn't catch people out. This is an accessible toilet, by the way, so it should probably be right. So that's been fixed. That is building and property. Any questions?
Thank you very much. You've left them. There's nothing else to ask.
Oh.
Speechless.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Well, Dan, if you go to page 55, Dan's going to take us through the amenities.
Yep, fantastic. So you go through amenities for the last couple of months. Yeah, all the detail in the plan is included in the report, so I'll go through the detail in the next few pages. So on page 56, in terms of CSR, obviously you can see the trend lines heading down. Unfortunately, it happens every year. It's very seasonal. So we sort of get to this time of year, the lowest amount, and it starts creeping up as we get in the weather. So I expect that to go up. Once again, really good that we're on top of things, and things are coming in again, closed really quick. So really good, but I expect more to come in as we get to summer. In terms of mowing, did quite a few audits. Majority parts had a couple fail for long grass and edge creeps that the edging that needed done. Once again, expect the growth to start taking off. Now onwards, so you're getting out there more and keeping an eye on them to make sure that they're keeping to the specifications. Moving to page 57.
Yeah, sorry, just regarding mowing, I just noticed that the Gorbay, what do you call it, the area at the south end of the bay where the toilets are, and that playground area there, the lawn was quite long there, and I thought, gosh, if that was my area, which it sort of is, yeah. So is that what sort of cut does that have on it, or is that done by someone different? Because it's
I'd have to check.
you know,
No,
to me, it
just didn't fit the spec at all.
yeah, I know. got some of the savings on.
I just noticed the other day out here, just going around by Cochrane's, and the grass was all pretty long. Yeah, I was just wondering how they're mowing it, just seemed to be a bit out of spec.
Well, yeah, we're catching up with them tomorrow, so we'll, yeah, I'll ask about Corday, but yeah, once again, they're putting through their fortnightly plan, showing them mowing, been seeing them round mowing, so, yeah.
But through the chair, it's sort of like, well, if you're not on top of it now, it's like, well. It's gonna get
When was the
away.
review of the mowing, you know, the areas to be mowed and the standard, the heights and all of that, when's that sort of review come around, or is it something you just adjust as you go?
So pretty much it's tied to the length of the contract. So we awarded, it'll be 2 years in February. So there's another year, then there's an opportunity at that point then to have a look if we need to change anything. Generally wouldn't change the spec because then you have to reprice the whole lot. But if you want to remove it, add areas, it's always a good point as part of the negotiation extension.
So there'll be two, since that time, I'm thinking that there'll be the Woods Green over there would have come on to that list somewhere, and there's a reserve area out here will need to go onto it as well.
So the village green's already on there, but the spec might have to change, which we can change things as we go. So we just go to the contractor and say, please give us a price for doing A, B, or C. So a lot of times when we invest new reserves, then we obviously have to add them on. So yeah, adding things on and changing, we can do as the contract goes, but yeah, in terms of changing specifications, it's not, it affects all prices. So wouldn't advise on this new contract.
Yeah, just to finish on positive, for me, the village green and wire with its cut and catch, yeah, it's been looking great. So something really good with that contract. Yeah.
Moving on to page 57. So the public towards, yeah, once again, the condition of the audits just yet pretty much majority coming through excellent, which is really good to see. Obviously they'll get a lot more use coming into summer, but the standard's been really high since we've swapped over, so hopefully that carries on. And interments was yeah, about 3 months, a wee bit less than normal, but yeah, not by much, so to be expected. A few more burials, which is interesting, sort of going back. It's sort of been about 50-50, so the last couple of months have been a wee bit different, which is, yeah, we'll see if it's a changing trend or not. Yeah, pages 58 and 59, yeah, just showing a heap of different photos of what the team have been up to. Putting a lot of mulch around the district, as you sort of see the photos. Obviously, it's maintenance going forward. And start to build from the arborist, so good use of that material. Excellent. So,
Now you're on.
yeah, so program capital, it's actually quite small this month, which is the main reason that being a new financial year. And what that means is we're doing a lot of scoping, design and procurement. Obviously, as the financial year moves on, then this report will get bigger, have more photos and details. So once again, we'll expand it out as we move on.
I just noticed one put on my Factory Road there. The first thing I thought, well, someone might borrow solar panels because it's right on the road, and you know, is there what security have you got to protect? Because you know, they're just sitting there. And
Is this for one of the flow meters? Is this for one of the flow meters that have been installed?
Yeah, it's a flow meter one, but you know, right on the roadside. And I thought, oh, you know, it's a bit of a sitter for someone borrowing part of it.
I guess it's no different to any road sign that's got it, or farmer's paddock who's got it.
It's right on it's on the roadside.
But similar to all the signs around the country.
You know, I just wondered that sometimes when you're placing them, are you better to have more secure places? It's quite a public spot, but it's not a public spot. I mean, it'd be easy to do damage or something to it, and I just, you know, the first thing I drove past it, oh, that looks like it could be hit up.
Yeah, to the point, once again, the water main alignments where the alignment is, unless we did substantial work to move that alignment,
Because you've got plenty of places you've got to put it on the line.
But yeah, it's got to be on the alignment, we can't move it, offset it, because that's what the water main is.
Makes sense.
I'm leaning not to have it right on the roadside.
I mean, just through the chair, I take the point, Vince, but I understand what Dan's saying as well, you know, because, I mean, we've had electric fence units been flogged in the past, you know, because they're on the roadside, you know, so it is unfortunately, you know, sad indictment of, you know, use of our public, it's not really, but, yeah.
I think the solar lights, that angle is another shining, well, not shining example now, unfortunately.
No, that's right, it's the same, yeah.
But yeah, so in terms of the program, yes, I'll run through a few projects. So yeah, on page 60, and Chevy, we've just let the water main renewal, so we've got nearly 5K pipe going in there. So those works are planned to start next week, which is good. So the contractor's out there delivering pipe at the moment and should start the works next week onwards, which would be great.
Yeah, new water sources, Webb's Road, Ready Mix, I mean, I'd almost be surprised if you didn't find water down there, but is that just ongoing preparedness or just keeping up with the growth?
So that's for the growth. So originally we looked at putting more bores down at Kowai, had no luck, so we drilled a bore last year down Hillwoods Road, and plenty of water, good water. We've tested it, so now we'll run a pipe up to there. So now we just need to go through the process of build that bore, build the pump shed, and away we go. So then it'll send the water back to Kowai, get treated, and come back into the network. So it'll be fantastic, get some more water available.
So is that the bottom of Terrace Road where it carries on? It comes up Beach Road. But it's
Sort of.
Yeah, sort of.
So at the intersection of Bambley Beach Road and Heritage Terrace, there's a paper road.
Yes.
So it's right, so that's down there. So you follow that paper road, and it's down towards Ready Mix.
Oh, that's good that we've had success there, yeah.
No, it's very much so. So it was a really good amount of water found, and I said the quality was good. Obviously, still got the same issues that a lot of ambient water does around hard and stuff like that. Yeah, got plans.
Good.
Ross, so through the chair, so it is still hard. Okay.
Just through the chair in that regard, so we've got the deferred plans, I think, for the Kowai. Yeah, for the softening plant, haven't we? And so for this new source, will we need to consider some softening for that as well, or can we configure it so that it's all?
Yeah, so
we'll do both, or
So the softening budget was last year, and we planned to do it, but since we found a new source, we then need to get months and months of data of the quality, so if there's any fluctuations, to be able to test the water and work out how we actually soften it.
Yeah.
So we've gone through that process now, and then when the carryover money comes through later this month, there'll be a request to carry that money over so we can install those works. But obviously with the change in bore location, we didn't know what quality the water would be and how we'd treat it in terms of soften it. So yeah, so we just delayed. Now we'll get a good picture of what the water characteristics are, so we know what we need to do. So yeah, that money was still like to use and come through carryover.
Exactly. So do we have several twin pipes down Heritage Terrace Road? We have twin, so you can.
Yep.
I must say I was very impressed. Once that's processed, it heads up the hill. Up on the, I was up there the other day. It's pretty impressive the work going up there with the stabilisation. That's quite a lot of earthworks going on at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very impressive. Yeah, some drone pictures just for a couple of minutes. Yeah, looks very good. I'll include them in the next report. So. And then yeah, moving on to page 61. So
just before we go on, so in regard to that reservoir, you know, which is going to provide more certainty, I guess, you know, more resilience for Amberley, have we got any plans for comms, you know, to tell people what's happening there? Because, you know, I think that it's really important. I mean, it's a huge part of our resilience program that we've been doing for 10 years or if not more. So it'd be good to actually keep people if we could do some comms around that, because they'll start to see a little bit of change going on, but that you can't have those big tanks without costing money. But I think we've got those big tanks to build the resilience, so, yeah. I
It
think
must
it's
be
good
one of
to-
the bigger ones, what is it, million litres or something?
So there's 750,000 litre tanks. It's
Yeah.
been it's been an interesting one. The location's been moved quite a few times to appease the landowner, but we finally got there, so.
So they get installed and then there's a series of concrete tanks that were built up there, they get removed.
But no, I agree, we will put comms
Yeah, I
in.
think that'd be great sooner rather than later, because now the platform set, at least there'll be a little bit of interest, I'd say, in the community,
That's great.
which is good, thank you.
So moving on to page 61. So the Mender Bridge, which obviously everyone's aware got damaged a few months back, so works are underway at the moment to repair that. So we've got a couple of new poles that drilled in, although the steel members as of yesterday all been welded into place, so now we need to go through to the jack the bridge up, set on the new poles, and then a few repairs, and away we go. So ideally, all going to plan will be finished on Friday, but if not Friday, early next week. So get that done, and then we can open that back up, which would be fantastic.
How did we get on? Did we get any funding, more funding to help pay for it? How are we funding it?
We're just funding it through a component replacement.
Yeah, so we couldn't get adverse events or.
Well, Mr. Chair, hasn't reached the threshold. We need an accumulation through the year of a vast quantity of work, which triggered our company now. I think it's over 10% of our roading budget, 15%, and we didn't get that because we didn't have many storms last year.
So how much do you think, what ballpark do you think it's going to cost to fix it?
About 190.
So, that's cleans out our bridging fund, isn't it?
Well, it doesn't clean it out. It's just, we have to move things around to accommodate.
I guess the good news is we're not dipping into different money now, it's coming out of a bridging budget.
Correct, exactly. Yeah, we're not giving new money to do it, we're doing existing, we just reprioritise. And yeah, the Embley wastewater ponds, so you've got some more desludging to do in pond 2 there. That's where we plan on building a new wastewater treatment plant in the future. So the plan there, the desludge it, and we do some geotechnical assessments, and then we can get some design done for what the future looks like there. So I'll start that. It's really good, clean that out. And then the next page is just a couple of jobs.
I just on the replacement and extension of wastewater pipes, is how the ones at Cheviot, is there many people you're going to connect on if you're extending it?
So it's just renewals. It's just renewal of existing.
Just like it says there, it's and extensions. I was just trying to.
Oh, yes, that's above by the school, yeah. But no, that's not the plan. So
Just wonder why you extend it if you're not connecting people to it. What's the point of it?
and page 62, just a few photos of some of the completed works. Nice and short for the report. That's fine.
Footpaths look good in Cheviot, don't they? The Cheviot footpaths look good,
Great,
look really good, thank you.
everyone's commenting on how great.
Yeah.
The contractors did a great job and they cleaned up after themselves and
Pass the feedback on, yeah.
it's well managed.
Dan, the Amiri water intake one, just the whole height, is that?
Just to that's due to the 1-200. So before the heatworks and stuff, we had a big rain, it'd be underwater.
So that.
That's for residents.
River Road or one?
What's the name of the road?
It's on the corner.
Caithness, yeah.
That's great. More questions? Raise a hand if you are.
No, I was not.
Oh, thank you very much, Dan.
Thank you.
And we'll go to get Kirsty to go through her Three Waters report, which is back on page 24.
Yep, so page 24, in terms of that table, yeah, all operational tasks, pretty much on track there, making really good progress with those standard kind of inspections and maintenance work. I just will make a correction to the third one from the bottom, where a point of supply inspection. So where that says point of supply inspection temporarily paused while district-wide meter reading is underway. Yeah, that meter reading is completed. So the point of supply officers are actually currently working in Parnassus doing point of supply inspections. So that's work is still underway. In terms of the global discharge consent for stormwater, quite a lot of progress has been made with ECAN in terms of that consent. So there was some fairly problematic clauses with the monitoring plan with ECAN in terms of some of the sampling sites. So having working quite closely with them, and yeah, have got fairly close to an agreement now and some more pragmatic sampling sites for that that program. So that's good progress there. In terms of the water safety plans, currently working on Waiā Town, we've still got 5 that need update there. The source water risk management plans are pretty much up to date. It's just Balmoral with those 2 sources for Balmoral that needs to be updated now in terms of source water risk management plans. Over to the next page. In terms of the graphs there, it's probably just the water repairs one in July and August that you can see a wee bit of a spike there in water repairs in August. So Alex has attributed that mainly to a change in the way the leaks are reported. So previously, where they were grouped together under one service, each leak is now being logged individually. So that has created a wee bit of a spike there in those August numbers. And also, you know, with the drying soils after winter and northwesterly rain, wind conditions, just a bit more ground movement causing new leaks there that have been detected. Stormwater connections on page 26. We also a bit of a spike here in August from no new connections in July to connections in August. So I think that was just a bunch of building consent stuff that came through where they were processed. In terms of alarms, nothing really unusual there. Both July and August, you know, we kind of get these UV fault alarms that occur with power outages. So that's kind of a similar theme to what we normally see, particularly stand out there. In terms of cost saving initiatives, we did purchase this portable flow meter, and that was a big cost saving in terms of one that we had previously. So it was a lot cheaper. We were a little bit concerned in terms of the quality with the cheaper unit, but it has been out and been tested, I think out in Shevia on Minor Road. We had some suspicions of a leak on that line from Minor Road up to Record, and we used this new portable flow meter and actually didn't detect any major leaks or water theft on that line. So, you know, saved an incredible amount of time in terms of, you know, the watermen actually trying to do that in a more manual way. So we see a lot of potential here with these portable flow meters, and, you know, kind of around about $600, so they don't cost a lot. So we will be getting more of them, so watermen have quite easy access to those and can use them.
Yeah, sorry, just through the chair. So the portable flow meter, is it much of a job to install it in the line?
No, not at all. It's like we had a go at it in one of the pipes here in the building, and you know that was coming up wall, and it's really quick. It's just sensors that you know get attached to the outside. No, it just gets attached to the outside of the pipe. So yeah, it's really quick. Yeah, effective. So Yeah, no, that's a great innovation there, and I think, yeah, we're gonna purchase more and make more use of that, so. Page 27, average water supplied. I mean, you can see there we're tracking pretty much exactly as we were last year with water supplied, so nothing unusual looking there. Legislation changes, so we're still waiting for Taumata Arawai to release their amendments to the level 3 drinking water rules. There has been some talk that there's some fairly significant stuff coming in there. So yeah, we'll wait and see what that is.
I've just got a question from Mark.
Yeah, no, sorry. So the thing on page 26, then under the critical alarms in August, got low reservoir alert by Carry Basin. So was that possible water in the river? You know, what was the alert when the reservoir was so low?
I think that was like linked to a UV fault at the plant, and so yeah, the plant was out for a bit in relation. I think there was a power glitch or something like that. So then the Waikato Basin reservoir, you know, ended up getting a low, you know, down low. So we never completely ran out of water. And it wasn't anything to do with the source waters. It was, yeah, a UV fault at the plant.
Right, okay. I was just concerned if it was about the water, yeah, the actual water getting into the reservoir that.
No, yeah, it's a treated water reservoir, so it's after the plant. So yeah.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
So legislative change, so that local government water services bill was obviously enacted. That brought some amendments to the Water Services Act as well. So I had a look at those. Some of it's fairly minor. They've given us a little bit of a longer time period to re-register. We used to have to re-register all of the water supplies every year. They've pushed that out to 5 yearly. The Water Services Act used to have a requirement for us to show that we had implemented the principles of Te Mana o Te Wai, and they've actually taken in our water safety plans and our source water risk management plans, and they've actually taken that out. So that's fairly significant for us. We will review the water safety plans again, and that will actually remove a lot of that stuff around Te Mana o Te Wai, because we just have to remember that our water safety plans are legal documents for us. So we don't want to commit to actions and activities that we are not really legally required to commit to. So,
Kirsty, in very, very broad terms, and you know, he might need to assist. As far as gearing up for the water services control organisation, what's our? I can imagine you're preparing all reports and things for us now. Do you then at some stage, does everything have to get bundled to hand over to a new group? I just sort of wonder whether there's a big bump of work coming. Just broadly, what's the schedule? How does it work?
Well, Mr. Chair, we'll just continue. We'll continue under a different T-shirt, and it will just keep going. The workload won't change, the law won't change, so it will just keep happening.
But so there'll be a bundle of reports and information and all the rest of it that will be sort of your desk now or whatever. That's right, sort of thing.
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, so there's not a major change of workload in the meantime. Okay. So it is.
Yeah, so those are probably the major changes in terms of council supplies with that change to the Water Services Act. Private supplies, probably more significant change for private supplies. I'll just clarify that first dot point there where it says suppliers serving less than 25 people are no longer classified as drinking water suppliers. That's actually not completely true. If you're less than 25 and you don't have community purpose, you're no longer a water supplier. Don't have to be registered, but if you have any kind of community purpose, so if it's a cafe, camping ground, anything where the public, you know, could have access, and you're less than 25 people, you are still a drinking water supplier, you still have to be registered.
So would that cover, you know, the walk sharing time or things like that when you
I
have?
don't think so. I mean, I wouldn't consider that to be public generally have access. I think, you know, those, you know, I think the thing around has the public got access is around someone could just rock up, drink water, unknowing anything about that. Whereas if you've got a controlled group of, you know, workers coming onto a property, you know, the owner has organised something, you know, they can talk to people before, you know, they just go and access drinking water and things. So I think that is, well, that's my interpretation of what they mean with public just being able to have direct access to, you know, a tap.
So anywhere, you know, your homestays, your horse trekking, your walking tracks or whatever, as long as they're briefing them.
If it's a commercial operation that they're selling like a service and stuff, that might be different than it's a farm and you're bringing workers on to a farm. I think, yeah, it's, they haven't got lots of good examples and stuff yet, but it's yeah, essentially if it's non-commercial, you're fine. But yeah, any kind of commercial place could get captured.
Would be cool.
Yeah, yeah. So they've also pushed out some of the deadlines for private supply. So a supply that's currently unregistered now has until November 2028 to get registered and November 2030 before they actually have to comply with all the requirements. So they've pushed that out a bit. They've also released their new acceptable solutions. So I won't go into that too much now because we've got the other information paper on that, so that's good for us in terms of Balmoral. So yeah, water supply, yeah, we had a few outages there, through dramatic, nothing that required notification to the regulator or anything like that. Page 28, asset management. So your asset management team have done an amazing job updating our asset database. So all of our new treatment plants there are now all updated in the asset system, which has been a huge amount of work. My understanding it was about 1,500 new assets have been updated since July. So yeah, when you've got a plant like Huranui number 1, it's quite, I think there's about 700 assets that have been registered just with that one plant. So yeah, quite a big lot of work. Have also updated the annual value assessment for water, wastewater and stormwater. My understanding that since the 2024 valuation, it's about $13 million change, that valuation from the previous one. Okay, looking at data and comms, we did have some problems with our aerial up at Mount Alex. So northwest winds seems like they had built up static on the aerial, so we had trialled a new type of aerial up there, and that has performed considerably better. And has continued to do that through these last lot of northwest winds that we're currently experiencing. So we think we've got a good solution there. We also had a faulty, one of the RTUs caused quite a significant outage on our Mount Grey comms network. So service was restored quite quickly. Alex did some fault finding and managed to determine it was one of our sites that was basically Leafield was just talking too much, sending too much stuff through that faulting basically blocked up the whole network. So he managed to fault find that pretty quickly and sorted that out. Electrical, just ongoing reactive and routine maintenance tasks were completed, so 165. We're still really focusing on some of a bit of a backlog of work that we had to get through with control panel inspections, just general generator testing, and just verifying a lot of the alarms and making sure all that's working correctly. So that's great to get through a lot of that work. In terms of treatment plant performance, we haven't had any really challenging weather, so the treatment plants have performed pretty well over July and August. Huranui number 1, we're still working with Apex to do some fine tuning of that plant. It's primarily the drinking water treatment. So you think of that plant basically as 2 plants in one. So there's the part of the plant that treats the drinking water, and then there's the part of the plant that treats the waste stream, backwash water and stuff that the drinking water treatment plant makes. Drinking water treatment plant, we haven't really had any issues with. The waste plant is where we have had to do a bit of fine tuning with Apex. So it's just struggled a little bit to filter water really quickly, as fast as we need it to. So they're still working on some, with a little trial plant there, some optimization in terms of how we can get the best flow basically through that filter system.
Sorry, Chris.
Well, just a question on on page 29, the 100% compliance. Then you go back on 26, you've got in July and August you had UV faults. You think if the UV's not working, it wouldn't be complying.
That's where we're lucky, because our UV doesn't work, it just shuts off. So you're only
I'm just trying to wonder how it could be 100% compliant when part of it's not working.
Yeah, I'll explain it. So as soon as the UV unit faults, it basically shuts off the water. So your compliance is only measured when you're producing water. So if we were putting water out while the UV unit was faulted, we'd be non-compliant. Our UV unit faults, and we have this across all of our schemes, it shuts off the water straight away. So we don't deliver any water. Yeah. So back on page 28, that work that was done at the Amiri intake, where we had some redevelopment work done on the wells, it just required a bit of intervention from our water safety team there, just being ultra careful there with those changes in source water quality. We've got 2 quite different water sources there, with the deeper bore and the more shallow bores. And there was a little bit of disturbance when that redevelopment work was done. So just being ultra careful there with some more monitoring and time spent at that intake. We did see a wee bit of a change in the water quality there after that work, but that settled down pretty quickly. E. coli, so 324 samples taken over August and July and August, and no transgressions, which is awesome. Page 29, yep, so July and August have been great for compliance, 100% compliance across the board there, obviously with the exception of Balmoral, which is the one plant that we've obviously got left to upgrade. Pleasing to see for me that we had a few niggly issues with COI, with the UV, that was causing us, I don't know, a few months we had like 99% compliance, which was really irritating me. So we had a few niggly issues there, which was just when the plant stopped, flow was still being measured, the UV was off, but it was still measuring just a tiny amount of flow, so it was making us non-compliant. So we've just done some reprogramming there, which just runs the UV on for a little bit longer after the plant says stop. So that's kind of addressed that issue. So I'm pleased to see that. So moving on to wastewater, quite a lot of work done in wastewater over the last 2 months. A lot of upgrade works to aerators and motor replacement and electrical work. Some of the wet well inspections have revealed fairly significant stormwater ingress issues, probably particularly in Hardin and Waikato. So we need to do some further investigation around that, because seeing quite significant differences in flow volumes there after rainfall. So Brett tells me that our camera van is now fully equipped, and it will be starting in Hardin first, just because of some of those, just to aid with that investigation work. Buffer pond modification, that was Cheviot, I believe that's talking about. So there were some modifications done there to the inlet and outlet pipes, just to try and assist with that effluent quality.
Kirsty, I've just got a question from us.
Yeah, sorry, through to you, because you just, I know a few years ago, the Cheviot wastewater scheme had quite a bit of stormwater getting in and rain events. And there was going to be a lot of work done on trying to identify where that was. Where are we at with that? Is that sort of settled down? Have we found where it's getting in, or?
I'm afraid I don't have the answer to that one, Dan, do you?
Okay, sorry, which scheme?
Cheviot wastewater scheme.
Yeah, so that's part of the reason, the rationale for the camera is to go and have a look at what the team have been, if you remember Brett talking about it a year or two ago, called the bobbers. So all the bobbers have gone in under the manhole so that we can see when the height flows high, so that we can get along and try and have a look.
Yeah.
But it's really difficult, even when the flows are high, to try and ascertain where it's coming from.
Okay.
So that's the point of the camera, is to be able to try and identify those places early. And we've also been doing smoke testing as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we've done it specifically in Cheviot yet, but I know that we have, certainly in Cheviot, some of the manholes have been raised.
Yeah. To stop.
Yeah, to get the pipe and the surrounding ground, so they're not, and that's largely what many of our problems are.
No, thank you.
Yeah, so I imagine if that Cheviot area is still problematic, once Harden and Waikato have been like sorted with the camera, I guess, you know, the next priority site might be Cheviot after that,
So, sorry, through the chair, so the camera, is it going down the pipe to inspect?
Mhm.
Yeah,
I
okay.
look for, things like root, you know.
Yeah.
and things like, yeah.
Yes.
Right, there has been, a lot of high pressure cleaning and inspection of manholes, so just basically what we're talking about. I think a lot of this has been going on in Hemner at the moment in terms of that work. So if we move on to stormwater on page 30. Modelling, so there's been a significant amount of work done on the Hemner Springs stormwater model, moving that from 1D to 2D framework. Team have also been out post-rain events doing a lot of verification on the ground of what that model results were, and you know, whether those flow paths are actually accurate in terms of what they're seeing out there post-event. So just doing verification work there. Hemner Springs, Rippingale Road, your planning's underway to drill a bore. They're basically just looking to see if there's good gravel structure there in terms of installing with it, if a soak pit type situation will work to improve that ponding situation there at Rippingale Road, so that work's underway. And all these photos on the next few pages, I guess just visually demonstrating the magnificent work that's been done with drain clearance. So we're ahead of schedule in terms of that work. So just massive improvements been made there with all that drain clearance work. And the other thing to point out, I don't know if Alex has spoken to you before about these the stormwater auto samplers, but have started. So these basically automatically take a sample with that first flush after rainfall. So instead of trying to have someone out running around all these various sites to get these first flush samples done to meet our consent, this equipment takes that automatically. So this one in the picture has been installed at Leaffield or Leaffield Beach, and probably a little bit of fine tuning still with the level and stuff to get that right for different types of level conditions in terms of where that water is. But that's looking really promising in terms of us being able to easily manage that first flush sampling.
Any further questions on this report? If not, don't go away. My governance advisor tells me that now we're going to move and second the discussion items, like a remover. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Thanks. So now I'm going to ask if Kirsty can go through our item page 63, the acceptable water solutions.
Okay. I'm sure you're probably sick of hearing about the acceptable solutions. I feel like I've been here a few times talking about it. But this one's a bit of a better news story. So yeah, the Taumata Aroa released their final version of the mixed use rural acceptable solution, which is the one that we had looked at earlier as a potential compliance solution for Balmoral. So it's the one that's based on, you know, point of entry treatment at each individual house. So the original version of that, we had some concerns with it. There was some fairly strict requirements around the water treatment system that was needed. It had to be a validated UV system. There was some fairly strict prerequisite water quality requirements in terms of the raw water that we were putting in the network, that were quite strict in terms of the turbidity level and the UVT level. And there were also concerns for us with it being quite unclear about who was responsible for, you know, the maintenance and management of those point of entry treatment systems, which the previous solution had kind of made it sound like, you know, even though they were potentially privately owned, council was responsible for making sure they were maintained and stuff. So we had some concerns there. So there's been quite a process in terms of getting the acceptable solution to where it is now. And, you know, we have been fairly heavily involved in that in terms of going to workshops, you know, doing formal submission, writing to the regulator about, you know, our concerns. So it's quite pleasing to see that, you know, some of those concerns, most of those concerns, in fact, that we had, you know, have actually been addressed following the formal consultation. So the appendix document, I don't know how much detail we want me to go through, but I'll run through it quickly. So the table just kind of goes through the areas where I've picked out where we were more concerned in terms of the detail that was in the previous version. So in terms of the prerequisite water quality, it had that you had to have this, well, it had example less than 1 NTU. They've changed that now to say basically the cartridge filter that's installed needs to be able to last for more than 1 month. So, you know, we're happier with that. It's not setting a strict requirement that we would not have been able to meet 100% of the time. Over to the next page, UVT is also talking here about prerequisite water quality. So it's your raw water that you're putting in the network. That was a similar kind of situation to the turbidity, had quite a strict requirement greater than 90% UVT. And they've removed that requirement and basically just saying that, you know, the UVT that is in your raw water needs to be at a level where the UV unit installed can achieve this dose. So my only comment with that will be is that when we're communicating to people, if this is, you know, the way the compliance option goes for Balmorals, we probably just need to be a wee bit careful about which particular UV units can actually successfully treat the water quality that we know that we will be delivering in their networks. So that might be just something that we have to have quite a close look at. Storage tank.
So instead of brand.
Yeah, it'll be a brand and a model kind of, you know.
Okay, so we might say we need brand X that delivers above this threshold. Yeah, and we would start that somewhere. I mean,
Potentially that's what we could do, yeah.
Purchase them and, I don't know, I'm just wondering how do we manage that?
Yeah, we've got Rick is going to come back and help us do some evaluation about units and how this might work for us. So he's done all the work leading up to where we've got to today, so it makes sense to bring him back. So he'll help us out, and he may well be saying is a range of compliant units, but yeah, we'll accept.
Yeah, and if I chooses to give a lesser value, if you like, will sit on their shoulders. Is that what you're saying? If they're able to meet the threshold to visit the water that we're delivering.
Yeah, that's my understanding as Carol is written now, is that we give recommendations basically. and say this is our, we can say this is recommended for, our water quality, these particular units. If someone chooses to like, no, I'm happy to take the risk and I want to install this unit, or I've already got this unit, that's on them. So storage tanks, so that number 2, there were requirements around screening gaps, overflow pipes, things like that, which are all good things. But the previous version made us responsible for making sure that each individual property tank had those, were meeting that particular standard. So that's been removed. We just have to kind of provide information now on, what you should be doing with your on-site storage tank. So that's easier for us to implement. Doesn't put so much responsibility on us for people's private property.
Yes, just a question for Rob.
Yeah, sorry, Kev, that was one thing I picked up on, was consumers are required to undertake annual inspection. It's great to have it written down like that, but will they? It's like, but the onus is on them then.
We just tell them.
Yeah.
We just tell them that,
It's on them.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, a bit of accountability people need to take, so.
Yeah. Is it sort of like the backflow?
It's probably slightly less onerous than the backflow, because the backflow, we are required to have a register of, backflow devices or backflow prevention mechanisms, and we kind of have responsibility for making sure that we have records that they've been, tested annually, and so it's probably slightly less onerous than the backflow. The way it's worded. So in terms of the actual point of entry system that needs to be installed, previous version you had to have 2-stage cartridge filtration. The last one before the UV had to be at least 5 micron or less. They've kind of loosened up the wording a wee bit. The cartridge filtration, you actually only now have to have 1, still has to be 5 micron. So it's less prescriptive. I think probably for Balmoral, with knowing what the raw water is like, probably a 2-stage cartridge system is probably still what we would be recommending, but it would generally be cheaper in the long term to have a 2-stage cartridge filtered than to try and you just be blocking up a 5 micron one all the time. The UV, so previously it had to be a validated UV, so that was a considerably more expensive type of UV unit. They've gotten rid of that validation requirement. The UV system now just has to be able to meet a 40 millijoule dose. So that's basically just saying it is effective for killing, viruses, bacteria, and protozoa at that dose. And that you have to have some form of, documentation from a manufacturer's website or whatever to show that it is meeting that dose. So I think that's the kind of thing where we would want to recommend some particular units, because it's quite technical detail that people aren't going to potentially want to source out themselves. This shouldn't impact Balmoral, but if there was a building that had a base population of greater than 25 people, or it had any type of community purpose within a scheme that wanted to use this, those particular connections do have to have a validated UV. So they're basically just saying, look, that's high risk. They should have to have a system that has a few more bells and whistles with it. UV system monitoring. Previously, the system had to be able to monitor UV intensity continuously, had to be able to generate a local alarm, had to be able to shut down automatically if there was a fault. All of those requirements, again, have been removed. They were adding quite a lot of money to the cost for this solution. So when Rick did that initial costing, that type of control of the UV, it was just adding more costs. So they have removed those requirements. Next, page 68. Backflow prevention. So before it talked specifically about a backflow prevention device. So it wasn't really encompassing use of air gap. we've already installed managed air gap in all of these tanks. So, you know, to make people then put in a testable backflow prevention device seemed like, you know, quite a waste of money. So they have accepted now air gaps recognised specifically. So yeah, that's an improvement. I won't go into too much detail with the monitoring, but basically the previous version had some monitoring that was actually in excess of what's required for small suppliers under the assurance rules. So we had made quite a point about the fact that, you know, this was more onerous than what they were expecting for a supplier population of 500 people. So they have pulled that back quite a bit. So again, that just helps people out in terms of the cost of the monitoring not being so much. Cyanobacteria, no real change there with cyanobacteria. I just put this in because I just wanted everyone to be aware that although, you know, we might say that if this is the selected solution for this supply, as a water supplier, we still do have some ongoing responsibilities that are on us as the supplier of the raw water, and cyanobacteria is one of them. So in terms of doing inspections or monitoring at the source, we would still need to do that. There's no real difference between that or using centralised treatment. So yeah, we would be in the same boat either way there. And then responsibility. So the previous version, yeah, operation and maintenance, it was the drinking water supplier's responsibility quite clearly for the operation and maintenance of all components of treatment systems within installed on the mixed use scheme. Now the water supplier is responsible for providing information to consumers annually. So a bit of an administration thing around us, you know, having to tell people what they should be doing, but not ultimately legally responsible. So I think that's a big difference. Definitely less risk to the water supply there. Taumata Arawai have also released a policy statement that provides us even more clarity around what our responsibilities are as a water supplier. So I think, yeah, that can give us even more assurance that we are not, if something goes wrong with an individual treatment system, or if property owner doesn't look after it, or they pull it out, or they don't install it, that, you know, we are not, as the water supplier, responsible for that. Record keeping, this was probably the one area that we had, you know, asked for some changes in that they didn't change too much. So we still need to, we still have some responsibilities around record keeping. The stuff around the centralised components of the scheme, so that, you know, whatever we do with the source and now monitoring at the source and stuff is all fine. But we're still required to keep records of installation, maintenance and testing of the endpoint treatment devices. So yeah, that's the only thing that's still in there that puts a little bit of responsibility on us. But yeah, on the whole, I think in terms of, you know, submissions and things that I've been involved in, I think, you know, this is one where, you know, it was quite pleasing to see that they, you know, the regulator did actually seem to pay some attention to what people were saying, and there was some quite substantial change made.
Just got a question from Mary.
Excuse me, thank you. So just looking at the risk, when it talks about, and then you may say that council should consider maintaining chlorine. So the Powerol, that's not currently, tell me, is that currently chlorinated or not?
It is.
It is, so would we just be, to manage some risk around that, and we just continue with that chlorine on the Balmoral scale?
I mean, this is just my recommendation, something that we should consider. I think, yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be my decision to make, but I mean, I would just think that, you know, it's a barrier that we already currently have operating. I think personally there's some risks around some people not necessarily maintaining potentially the UVs as well as we would if we were looking after them. I personally would always like to think that, you know, visitors to our house and things like that are protected by us being the water supply. We have at least maintained chlorine in the network, but I mean, that would be something, I guess, for, you know, council to decide, not for me, but that would just be something I think we should consider.
I mean, I guess that's, you know, how we manage that well. I mean, I support what Chris is saying, you know, to have something coming at point of entry of the whole scheme, before the point of entry to housing provides a level of safety, I guess, isn't it, really? So, yeah.
Dan, did you want to comment?
Just to say that, so you'll have read in the report that we have received a letter from the regulator saying that we've got to provide them with a plan around how we're going to deliver on the acceptable solution for Balmoral by the 13th of October. So we're working on that, but as part of that plan, we will, like I say, we'll do some analysis of what the options are that we have. We'll go to the Balmoral Water Advisory Group and we'll talk to them about these courses of actions, and some of those will be about chlorination on the scheme or not, which ultimately all of this is a decision for council. So we'll be coming back to council within the fullness of time. But the first hurdle to get over is to satisfy them with our plan by the 13th of October.
Have you a date set for that?
Or
Meeting with the Balmoral?
no, not yet. No, we need to engage with Rick.
Yeah.
Well, Alex already has. He's been talking to Rick, but I need to find out from Rick when he's likely to have a proposal together,
Yeah.
so that we can go and talk to them. But we'll start to estimate some timeframes that can go into the plan for the 13th of October.
Hamish.
I think Kirsty's unplayed her hand, and she's had in this whole change from Tamararo. I mean, I spoke with Alan Pragnell not that long ago, and he said that, you know, the influence of Kirsty and Alex and others from Coronui in getting these changes made and explaining how pragmatically things work on the ground was really instrumental in the changes. So, you know, I think that the work that you guys did, Kirsty, was really significant in getting this across the line.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
We do have any further questions around the paper, Kirsten? If not, I'd have a mover that this information be received. Ross? And seconder? Yeah, thank you very, very much, Kirsty, for that. Yes, great. Thanks very much for being made.
All in favour?
All in favour? I'll get that one.
I do too sometimes, don't worry.
Thank you.
So the last thing we've got was page 70 is our action sheet. Three Waters manager, who's going to do that, Dan?
The record. I've just texted a couple of people and I haven't had a response, so I don't actually know. I'll have to
Leave that one there.
update.
Spring. Fergus Street footpath repair.
That's in trivia. Just leave it there.
Leave it there. Oh, that's the one with the camera issue. So we've got nothing further to go on or off there. So we'll need to move that one. Oh. So with that, hopefully George will close the end of our operations committee meeting, and if I'm correct, that it's the last one for this training. And I note that three members sitting around this table are sitting back in the chairs quite comfortably. Two members are worrying if they have to clean out their desk. But one member's chosen to move on. So I'd like to acknowledge Ross, not for the whole 6 years, that could be done at a later date, but for the 3 years as on the operations, as the lion's share as the chair, and get to steer us through the curliest ones that we've had. Appreciate that he gracious enough to step aside and give the apprentice a go at the end. But yeah, his knowledge, well, not just Mount Lyford, Downland Road, but you'd have to say the top of the district, really, right from Galway round through Cheviot, Mount Lyford, and that's been extremely helpful in building processes, all things concrete and Wilding Pines, and it's been huge, and I think, you know, we've just seen one of our true champions, experts within the water field, and you watch that, us go through the 6 years of that. And I'm just so pleased to see that, you know, a guy that used to bring a bottle of water from Mount Lyford every day, I have noticed of late filling it up in amber to take home.
Oh.
Is it the same bottle again?
False advertising.
Yeah.
I think you should close the meeting.
So yeah, thank you, Ross, and I really do think that the council's loss is Mount Lyford's gain, but really appreciate it. Thanks, Ross.
Oh, thank you, Robbie, and it's been a privilege to be in this role.
And that's us closed, lunchtime.